Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Marquette City Commission, Monday, April 28th, 2014. Would everyone remove their hats and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Your Honor. Commissioner Cambenzi.
Here.
Commissioner Campana.
Here.
Commissioner Coyne. Here. Commissioner Reynolds.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Here. And Mayor Nemi.
Here. Okay, Commissioners, are there any agenda changes? Agenda changes? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Commissioner Ryan?
I move the agenda be approved.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Cambenzi?
I'll support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, second by Commissioner Cambenzi. Anything further, either commissioners? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye or yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. The motions pass unanimously. The next item is announcements. I have the typical list of boards and committee vacancies. I encourage people to go to the city's website and fill out an application, volunteer for boards and committees. I'm not going to read all of those. I have a couple other announcements. One is a reminder on any citizen who has been instructed to let their water on a let-run basis. Please do not turn it off. There's still frost in the ground, and the city at some point, hopefully in the near future, but sometime in the future, will put out a public service announcement telling you that you can cease running your water. But if you do cease doing that prior to the city's announcement, you risk the potential of freeze-ups again because the frost is still deep in the ground, even though we've had some more pleasant weather. Also, I'd like to announce that we are going to have some public forums on recycling changes Monday, May 5th from 4 to 6 in the Peter White Public Library Sheriff's Room. Tuesday, May 6th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Peter White Public Library Sheriff's Room. And Wednesday, May 7th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Marquette Commons. And the purpose of these forums are focused on the pending shift in the city's recycling program, which is going to occur during the first week of May. One other announcement I have, I guess it's an explanation of the agenda. I know we've got a controversy going on the location of the potential rowing club boathouse, but the item on the agenda tonight does not pertain to that. It is simply the lease that we've been executing a number of years with the rowing club for the storage of their sculls down on the waterfront, and it has nothing to do with the potential new boathouse. That item will be read for, at this point, will be read and sent forth to the next meeting. Under the new charter, we actually have a 2-meeting requirement for all leases, and so tonight is basically the first reading of it, and next meeting would be the final. And like I said, that is not I guess I don't see any controversy attached to that, since it is the same lease that we've been executing with them for a number of years, 4 or 5 years. So let's see. Without further ado, I guess we'll start with our first public hearing. We have a rezoning 01, rezoning 414, a public hearing for the zoning district change at 1415 Pioneer Road. City Clerk, do you have some background on this?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Background: the City Commission executed an agreement with the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority to establish a recycling collection facility at the old Flink Farm site. The site is part of the vacant city property inventory and has been used by the Department of Public Works as a material storage area for the past several years. The recycling collection facility will be part of a hub and spoke concept that will aid local municipalities and other local entities in getting recyclable materials to market. In order to facilitate the construction of the facility, a change in the zoning designation is necessary. The Planning Commission held a public hearing, reviewed the requested zoning district change, and passed the following motion at their meeting April 1st, 2014, and that was our regular meeting. It was moved by Pengley, seconded by Norton, and carried 6-1 that after conducting a public hearing and review of the application and staff file review and analysis for 01 REZ-04-14, the Planning Commission finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the historical use of the property and hereby recommends that the City Commission approve 01 REZ-04-14 as presented for the following reasons. That the location would be an acceptable location for an industrial district. The area to the south of the proposed district may not be able to be developed, and the land is currently not suitable for other uses. The vote on the motion was, the A's were Moran, Norton, Penglaze, Scanlon, Schlegel, and Penglaze, and the nay was Baranek. The City Commission scheduled a public hearing at their previous meeting on April 14th, 2014, and the complete staff report and excerpt of minutes from the Planning Commission meeting were provided at that time. Fiscal effect none recommendation, concur with the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve 01-REZ-04-14 as presented, alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'll now open the public hearing. Any citizens wishing to speak at the public hearing on this rezoning, please come to the podium in front of us and say your piece. Anyone wishing to? No, go on. Give your name and address, please.
Jesse Strand, 1725 Harborview.
Okay.
In regards to the dump site or recycling sorting site, whatever we're calling it, on Pioneer Road, speaking opposed to it at this time just because of, I think there's been a lack of information provided by the city. I spoke opposed to it at the Planning Commission along with one of my neighbors. Of most interest, I've circulated a letter and I've talked to some of my neighbors about it. And there's been a variety of concerns. I think one of the things I didn't address was the environmental concern, which I'm sure the city's going to do due diligence with, but I know a lot of neighbors are concerned with noise and pollution of the creek nearby that's probably just clearing up from the dump site that was there. My concerns regarding this are the heavy truck traffic near the school and the residential neighborhoods. I don't know that there's been a traffic study done. I know that they applied for a turning lane going into it. Just to back up a second, the Planning Commission ruled basically that since no adjacent neighbors were opposed, that they were going to pass it. Just I wasn't adjacent enough, I guess. I pointed out at that time that this letter that went out, I get a lot of these letters. I own a few properties in Marquette, and usually they are, Mr. So-and-so wants to add 5 feet onto his garage. This violates zoning, blah, blah, blah. This letter that was circulated was simply just that the city's rezoning it, not that they're putting in a recycling center. So I don't think any of the neighborhood was notified properly. I own the Southwoods Apartments, which we just developed recently, which are not quite adjacent, but across the street. My concern there is the senior clientele not wanting the extra traffic there. The noise that may during the day. I know these trucks are not quiet. They have backup beepers. They have all kinds of things. I don't know the hours this thing is running. All the questions I asked the Planning Commission, and when I heard the Waste Authority speaking about it, was a lot of maybes and kindas and sortas, and that's what I didn't like about it as well. When I've developed things, you go to a meeting like this, and they want to know where you're putting the snow. They want to know where you're putting the driveway, what everything, every little detail, and it's a lot of hoops to jump through. I think all that was avoided in this case. Other concerns I see, I just don't know if it's the best location. I understand the city's going to get 60% of the revenue. I'm sure that weighs into the decision. I believe somebody asked at the Planning Commission meeting if they were going to move all the Cliffs Dow mulching and whatnot over to that site, and it was kind of like a maybe. So I don't think that this is the final development of that site, and just because it used to be a dump, I don't think it needs to be again. The proximity of the school, the type of homes and residential areas that are being promoted over there, the fact that the hospital still hasn't announced where they're going, and the vagueness of what exactly they're going to be doing there concerns me. I still have possibly the potential for more development at that site. Potential would be senior housing. There's a pickiness among seniors. We get complaints all the time about things a lot minor than trash trucks working all day long across the road. So I would like to see, I guess, I know the site plan comes later. I just, the process itself and the consideration of the neighborhood it's in, the proximity to the school, the proximity of the residential area. I talked to quite a few people in the Pioneer trailer park that their driveway is going to be straight across from it, which I believe is a requirement of the state. I know it's not as well received as many would like to think, and I'd just like some consideration for what are the sites that were vetted for this, and is there a better place for it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schramm. Any other citizen wishing to address us in this public hearing?
Good evening. Wes Hosworth, 1800 South McClellan. I'm a resident on South McClellan, and I'm probably, again, I'm referring to the item here on public hearing on the zoning. I am against it at this point because I don't know enough about it either. I did send an email to all the commissioners here a month or so back because I was preliminarily aware of what was going on at Pioneer Road for the temporary site. And again, I would hope those questions would still be put towards the new site, which is the speeding that's on South McClellan, which has never been addressed, and I've complained about that before, and it's gotten worse. But Pioneer Road itself, there's a bike track right off there. There's a blind corner on that. I know there's this temporary thing. I don't know where the temporary thing is going to go to the permanent site, but I'm talking about temporary and permanent both together now. I'm about 200 yards, a couple hundred yards north of the site where it's going to be developed. Lived there for 7 years to put a new house there. Again, I'd be concerned, like I said, with the speeding that's going on South McClellan. It's tremendous. You've got another intersection down there. You've got several intersections right there, and that's where you have a change of speed. There's a change of speed done from a traffic study that was done. They increased it. When I built the house, it was 35 miles an hour. It was raised to 45, and everyone's going 10 over at least. Not everyone. I'd say a good 50%, and 25% are probably going 10 plus over. So here you're going to have another intersection. You're going to have trucks pulling out on that road, going east out of that site, across 3 lanes to get into the lane where they're going to be going back north. So it is a big concern about the speeding. I also have concern about the, if you want to call it that, what's going to happen with the noise and the odor if we go beyond that into the site where we're going to be developing just a compost site. That is like a valley down there, and I found that out after the fact. Wood burning, for instance, that whole area, when it's burning, there's just no way to clear the air in that area, that valley. And there's a lot of wood, and you can smell it all winter. It's terrible. I don't know how much wood burning we're going to allow in the city of Marquette, but there's a tremendous amount going on in that area down there. And what happens is the wood burning from north gets in there. It just seems to lay in that area. So here you're going to have a site, composting site, if it's going to go that far, will develop. You're definitely going to get odors from that. The berms are not going to help. Berms have to be developed mechanically. They have to be developed civilly. They have to be developed at a certain angle. I was involved in studies at the power plant where the coal pile had to be done with a certain angle to eliminate wind, pickup of dust, fugitive dust. Same thing is true of odors. So if you're going to develop something out there, you better do it right, I think, is what I'm saying. And noise is another thing. You have a site that you utilize right now for snow dumping, as well as a site, I think you haul sand, move sand back and forth out of that area down there. Where is that going to be moved to? I'm not sure. Years ago, several years ago, I tried to institute a plan to use the old bar park for an off-leash dog walking area. It didn't happen. I heard the complaints were from the golfers. They didn't want to hear any dogs barking when they're on gray walls. Okay? And I think that's a fact yet. The other thing is the fact that points out the issue was there was a bike trail that goes between the ballpark and gray walls. The bikers had to put up signs saying, "Be quiet, golfers." So Here you're going to have trucks, backup beepers, everything else going on in that same area down there. What is the golfing community going to think about that? Are you going to be able to bring in the people from the outside to play in that course, which I understand is it's one of the most elite courses in the country. Here you're going to have a dump there. You're going to have a recycling center there. You're going to have noise. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The other thing, now you're going to have more truck traffic and more recycling trucks down there. Right now, people are rushing to town, I think, to get their paychecks, rush out of town, leave paychecks, hit a fast food outfit. Not everyone, of course. A certain percentage of people dump their garbage on South McClellan. It doesn't get picked up. I have to clean up my own property, right? That faces McClellan. What you're going to have now is contractors bringing more recyclables down there. They're going to say, well, it's a short haul. Why do I have to cover my load? So you're going to be dealing with a lot more of rubbish, garbage, flyaways off the trailers and trucks. That's just my opinion right now, but I believe it'll happen. Right now, they have to cover their loads to run to the Marquette County landfill. Now, they will not have to cover their loads. They probably won't cover their loads unless somebody forces that to load. The way the speeding's been enforced, I doubt if load coverage will be enforced either. So you're going to make that an area down there that really is not going to be appropriate for a lot of new development, if you want to call it that. You have the Heartland Forest out there. It's going to be down the road a little ways. You want some high-end residential area down there. I mean, you've got some other things to think about before you go ahead with this recycling. Recycling, too, I want to just a quick comment on recycling. I'm taking up too much time here. Mixed recycling, have we been under mixed recycling? Can somebody answer that question for years now? Where everything, whether you do newspaper or whether you do hard, is it all going to one truck? Because my wife and I have been pretty conscientious about putting up a couple of tails, soft in one, hard in another. Now they're going in the same truck. I understand that for 6 or 7 years now. I wasn't aware of that. Why didn't the commission make us aware of that? I mean, it's ridiculous to go through that trouble and find out that they're ending up in the same truck anyway. And maybe into the landfill. I don't know. So it's frustrating. One quick comment. I wish the community, I've been here a couple times. Again, the ballpark, the speeding. There's been no follow-up, no feedback. There's been a couple of commissioners that have given me little feedback, but it's politically correct answers, if you want to call it that. You know, they can only do so much. And I think a little more feedback, a little more follow-up, talk to the people that bring up the complaints would really be helpful. I've never been talked to. Nobody's asked, what are your ideas? What can you do about it? What can we do about it? Can I help? I don't know. So, anyway, a few more things I'd like people to think about. Maybe we can make it a little bit better if we're going to make the people in the south area down there, their life a little more. It's going to get really rough, bad in a short time, I think. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hausworth. Any other citizens wishing to address the commission during the public hearing?
Hi, my name is Richard Robinson, 1313 Pioneer Road, formerly known as the Dump Road, probably soon again to be known as the Dump Road. Probably I am the most affected person by this development. I wrote down a few things. I think a lot of it has been covered, but number one, I'm kind of dismayed by the lack of information that you people have given us. One of my neighbors said that approximately probably 8 months ago they were considering this as a place to recycle or whatever they're going to do there. And he said during the meeting that he viewed on TV, somebody said, shouldn't we tell the neighbors? And they said, no, not at this point. And at this position, we still don't know what's going to go. All I've received in the mail is a map, actually an aerial photograph of the area. I have no clue as to what's going to go in there, whether there's going to be lighting at night, whether there's going to be noise during the day, a lot of other things. I wrote some questions down. Got the map of the area. This used to be a farm, and I think somebody said that this is not suitable for any other use. That's not true. It's now a sand pit that is used by the city. This is not the dump area. The dump area was to the south and to the west of that. This area that is outlined on this map is not the old dump. The city takes this pure sand out of there now to use it for their fill projects when you have a broken pipeline or something like that, they take this very pure sand and replace the stuff that they take out of the road with that pure sand. And they have, as one of the city people that I talked to said, we dump our slop up there. The junk that they take out of the roads, blacktop, all of this junk, and they dump it up in this, on the western end of this area. Another concern of mine is the so-called farm road. Talked to one of the neighbors, and they said, when did this become city property? This map shows the center of the Flink Farm Road, which borders, I border that to the east, and these people that I'm talking to bordered on the west. They seem to think that they have given the city easement to that property along that line. Another thing that's rather strange is the differentiation between my property and their property. It looks like there's probably a 20-foot differential there. I don't know where that happened. And the Flink Farm Road continues on up, which was never there. This whole thing is a complete mystery to the people living in that area. Other concerns is how is this parcel to be used, as I mentioned. We haven't really gotten any idea as to what is going to take place there. I mean, is there going to be lots of trucks coming in? Is there going to be lighting at night? Is there going to be slamming tailgates all day long, such as there is now when they dump their so-called slop? Early in the morning, there's banging of the tailgates and so on and so forth, which I can live with. I bought the property, but is it going to be magnified? Other things. How many trucks per day are going to be coming in there? I think all of the neighbors would like to know this. Jesse was talking about this. They've got property across the road. It'd be nice to know how much noise and how much, I don't know about the smell, but all of these things, we don't know, we don't have no idea. Another thing that kind of bothers me too is for the last 8 months there's been a waste management bulldozer parked up by the old ball field. Is there some future development to be done up there? I mean, unless waste management just chose to park a bulldozer up there for some unknown reason, and that's well outside of this mapped area. You know, I almost feel like a mushroom. Keep me in the dark and feed me crap, you know, and so far they've kept me in the dark. I'm just wondering when I'm going to get my first feeding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Hello, Michelle Sellers, 1715 Harborview Drive. For the sake of time, I really have nothing else to add other than Mr. Hosworth and Mr. Schramm. I guess I concur with the odor, my concern with the schools, and the increase in traffic. I guess I would like to see a cost-benefit analysis, and why not continue to outsource. So just for the record, I'm opposed. I just heard about this just a couple of days ago, and I think a lot of my neighbors would be interested in hearing about this as well, and you'd have more people here talking about this topic. So thank you for your time, but I do oppose this rezoning.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Any other citizens wishing to address the commission?
I am Steve Cool. I live at 805 Oriana Drive. I just found out about this a couple days ago as well, and having seen a few of these things go through before with gravel pits or things like that, it seems to me that it would be important to have rules and regulations in place prior to approving the zoning change so that everything's laid out ahead of time rather than trying to go after the fact and argue back and forth and figure out what's going to be good for everybody. Because that has, I've seen it a couple times turn into a very sticky situation between the homeowners that already live there and the person that has vested interest in the business that's going in or already in place. So before it's approved, I think at least whether the site is completely designed or You know exactly what's going to be going on. They should know ahead of time what sort of noise restrictions, times of day, things like that are required of them ahead of time, and then everybody should be aware of that as well, or have an opportunity to comment on it. So other than that, I guess I agree with what some of the other concerns are, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Coles.
Frank Jeff Errico, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. This is my opinion that it appears as though this alleged lack of interest is spreading itself across quite a wide range of issues. Please provide us information.
Thank you, Mr. Barito. Any other citizens wishing to address the commission during the public hearing? Last call for anyone wishing to address the commission. With that, we'll close the public hearing, the public portion of the hearing. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Anyone want to start? Mr. Campana?
Is there not some meetings going on next week where they're going to explain this? Aren't there some meetings scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
There are. I did announce public forums on May 5th, 6th, and 7th, talking about the proposed recycling changes. City Manager, is that going to address some of the concerns of the site, or is that just simply the mechanics of the collection system?
It's designed to address all the concerns, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I would move we
Commissioner
suspend the rules for further discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Reynolds, you
Second.
that? Okay. The rules are suspended for further discussion.
On Commissioner Campana's point, I don't know what's planned for the forums. I assumed it was mainly to deal with how the city is going to be recycling. I guess the one concern I would have is if, in fact, people have not been well informed on this issue, it is a concern. And I do take note of the fact that if someone comes before the city with a request for a variance of some kind, it has to be very specific, and people have to know what's happening. And in this case, was it specific, and did people really have an opportunity to know what's happening? And you know, if not, then it certainly is a concern. On the other hand, we do have to deal with this issue, and I think it's an important project we're working on, and there has to be a location where it can take place. And at this point, this appears to be perhaps the only logical location. So, but I would raise that question as to whether people have had a chance to get input, or did they simply not pay attention?
Okay. Do you want a response from staff on that, or?
Sure. Maybe the manager or someone on his staff would like to respond.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll take the lead, and then I'll ask staff to step in as they might. But this project, as you're aware, has been going on for 14 months. It's been the topic of at least 4 joint interlocal meetings where we've had the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority as well as the City Commission receive presentations from Director Aho at the Solid Waste Management Authority and members of staff, including our own Superintendent of DPW and our Assistant City Commissioner. All of those were televised. All of those were public forums where the entire community was invited to participate. In addition to that, we've had at least 4 other instances where we've brought agreements before the City Commission specifically outlining what our plans were for that site, including presentations, overviews that discuss the operating hours, the current issues that were raised with the community from the public hall meetings, seeking votes from the Commission on interlocal agreements that support the development of this site. We've had community partners from nonprofit private groups step in to offer to help with community education segments, promoting greater recycling. I've personally gone out and walked up and down Pioneer Road and spoken to residents on that site, as has Assistant City Manager Whitney and Superintendent Goodman, going literally door to door communicating with people. We've responded to several different 24-hour responses, including those raised both for speed limits along McClellan as well as for passing along the information that's provided to residents on their concerns, some of which you heard an overview here. And you also heard during the presentations they've had an opportunity to participate not only in the joint forums and the City Commission regular meetings and the special meetings, they've also had an opportunity to participate in the planning session meetings, and several have elected to do that. So at this point, Your Honor, I think we've pretty thoroughly communicated what our intentions are over the last 14 months and given the public a lot of opportunity to come in and provide feedback and to raise concerns. That's not to say that they've all necessarily engaged in that or that they haven't discovered those later. All that information is certainly out on the web page. It can be found in the agendas, the minutes, the online video presentations. They're all posted on the city website. So all of that's available for any interested party to go out and look, literally from anywhere on the globe. We can always do better. We always try to do better. We've promoted the fact that these items would be included on the agendas, not only on Channel 21, but through local radio, through the online media sources. If there are other opportunities to get out above and beyond all of those, we'll certainly take our best efforts to try to do that. But I think we've given everybody an opportunity to hear about this project and, again, to communicate about it. And this isn't the end this evening of this project. This is really just the rezoning request. Subsequent to that come all the site reviews, all of the additional specific information, right down to the engineering details about what's being proposed there. And again, those are all public forums, and any interested community member will get a chance to come in and opine on those views. So we'll continue to get the information out as best we can. We continue to be available to anybody on literally a 24-hour response basis to hook them up with the information they're looking for, make sure the Commission's aware of their concerns, and to at least give them an information update if they so ask. So I think I'm pretty comfortable that we're getting the opportunity to folks to participate and to get the word out there. But maybe for more specific things, I'll ask Assistant City Manager Whitney or Superintendent Goodman to talk about some of the outreach they've conducted in addition to that.
Could we also address if we were to delay the rezoning, what the impact on the project or the timing might be?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. For the delay on the project or the impact that it would have, I know currently the Solid Waste Management Authority is in the process of putting together that site plan so they can bring that forward to the Planning Commission and start down that road. Certainly that, excuse me, certainly that would be, or that could be delayed if the rezoning request were delayed, but to what extent I can't speak to too knowledgeably. And as far as public outreach that the city manager was talking about, I took part in one of those walkthroughs that he talked about down Pioneer Road. That was in the late fall or early winter, I believe. The superintendent of public works, Scott Cambenzi, and myself walked that road again in the, I think it was February. It was in the week leading up to the joint meeting that was held with the Solid Waste Management Authority. We talked to a number of residents on that road, sat down with them, explained that the meeting was happening, kind of talked through the plan, and made sure that they knew about it. In addition to that, throughout this entire process, we've been pushing out information not only on this change, but on the change to the recycling system that it would also entail. You read the announcement, which was a PSA that we put out last week. We've put out a flyer through all of the water bills in the city that alerts people to that change as well. So the public outreach, I think, has been multifaceted. And as the city manager said, I'm sure we could always do better, but I think we've done our due diligence on this, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I could add to it is, yeah, the zoning is just part of the process. We do have to go through the site plan review. That application, I believe, is due May 6th. And through that process, a lot of these questions that have been brought up will be looked at internally and, hopefully addressed by the applicant, Marquette County Solid Waste Authority. And then that will go to the Planning Commission.
Commissioners?
Just to conclude, then I concur with the manager that we've had a lot of meetings, and I agree. I've sat through them, and I certainly do support the decisions we made about recycling and moving forward. I guess the questions have more to do with some very, the nitty-gritty kinds of questions of hours of operation, is the area lit, what kind of traffic is going to be involved in the area, and I think as Superintendent Goodman has pointed out, some of those details are still to be determined. I do think it's important that the city has taken these steps regarding recycling. It affects our landfill long term. It affects the opportunity for the city not to be held hostage by one contractor. I think it opens the door for us to be able to do some things that we haven't been able to do before. So it's a very difficult issue for the city, and certainly we understand the concerns about residents, but there are some important reasons why the general issue of recycling is critical to the whole community as well.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
I was only going to comment that I've been on the commission 5.5 years now, getting to the end of my time, and I have never been involved in any project that has had as much publicity put out on it as this one has. It's been in the newspapers several times with front page stories. It's been certainly on TV6 a number of times. TV 10's had it, as well as all of the media outlets that the city manager talked about. So it's just one of those times when you're at a meeting and you're getting ready to do something, and all of a sudden you've got folks saying, "I didn't know," and you kind of think, "How didn't you know?" I mean, what more could we have done? We need to do better. We understand that, but you just sometimes kind of take a gulp and say, "What do we do better? What do we do different? How do we make certain that every possible person has gained the knowledge that they feel they need to have? But I do feel this is a project we need to move forward on, as explained, the details that many of you want, that we all want, we all need. I live up there too. Really will come further down in the site review process. And that again becomes another opportunity for all of us to make a decision on it. So this is by no means the end of the game. This is the beginning of the detail process that all of you really want to have, and again, I do too. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse. Commissioner Campana?
It seems like the problem here is that people are objecting to the location of the facility. And I can understand if I'm like most people, I kind of forget. I don't read these things until the last minute, and then all of a sudden there it is, and I'm going to object to it. Is there a way that we could possibly delay this for a little bit and maybe explain how the site was picked? Or did we already do that enough that we don't have to address that? I think it seems like some of the people would like to know how we picked this site. I'm all for it. I think you have to have recycling, and it's going to save this landfill. I think it's in a good spot. From there, it's a shot right out to the county landfill, so it's just a good spot. Is there a better spot? Apparently there isn't, because this is one we settled on. But my question to somebody is, can we have a work session or meeting or something to explain how we settled on this site? City manager or staff?
We can certainly have any meeting the commission asks for.
Do we need to do it?
Then that's up to the commission.
Commissioner Cambenzi? Are you done, Commissioner Campana? Okay. Commissioner Cambenzi?
I'd just like to say it's not that any of us are not sensitive to zoning and rezoning in your neighborhood. I know I live in a busy neighborhood and right by 3rd Street, and when that gets rezoned, or when it got rezoned, there's a lot of changes that certainly make a person that's been in a neighborhood very uncomfortable. But the one thing I want to say is that a lot of the questions and concerns that the residents did bring up are ones that I think all of us have vetted, at least since we've been on here. And I guess I'd like to put some faith behind the process and say that we were very upfront in that if the hours don't work, if the smell is too much, if the dust is too much, if the noise is too much, we're committed to looking at how to solve those problems with that neighborhood. You know, we're not up here with closed ears, but certainly we want to work with the neighborhood where this place is going. So I just, the residents that spoke up against it, if you're willing to work with us, we are more than willing to work with you to make sure that this is not a disruption in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambizzi. Commissioner Coyne?
Yes. Something's wrong with the sound system, or I'm going deaf, one of the two. I can't hear, and I'm, you know, listen to that. That's not very loud. I mean, normally it would make everybody jump, and something is wrong. So I'd ask my fellow commissioners to speak up, and the city manager. I can't hear you at all, basically. Can I to take this opportunity to talk loudly and ask you to answer two questions? One, that were raised. What are the hours of operation proposed?
Let me ask Superintendent Goodman to answer that. But again, proposed will be part of the site plan review process.
I understand that, but we've had that discussion, and there was considerable. Could I ask Superintendent, do you know?
7 to 7 during the week.
And how responsive is the city going to be to lighting? Low-level lighting, monster lighting like Northern, what?
Yeah, that's part of the detailed site plan review process. I'll turn it over to Dennis.
The zoning ordinance provides that the, can you hear me? I think I'm having the same thing over here. The zoning ordinance provides that lighting shall not leave the site. It has to be of cutoff fixtures so there's no bleed over onto adjacent properties, and there is also a maximum height limit. The Planning Commission is generally very sensitive to light emissions in the city. I know they've spoken several times about dark sky, which hasn't gained a lot of traction, but they are very sensitive to making sure that sites are adequately lit but not overlit. And so there is a height restriction and a provision that the light not bleed onto adjacent properties.
All right. I have another question. The issue of smell was raised. Recycling the paper and plastic and tin and glass doesn't smell. Does composting now at the Cliffs Dow site have a foul odor?
I can't answer that 100%. I haven't heard of any complaints on that site. Periodically, when they do a turning of it, you may get some odor, but we definitely can follow that up.
Okay. And lastly, for Mr. Hausworth, I also was surprised when we got into this that my compulsive separating everything at 3 in the morning, somebody comes by and puts it all together and dumps it in a truck and then sends it to Wisconsin, which is ridiculous. But in fairness, the city does not control that. That's waste management, not the city. At least the city has taken an effort to get people to recycle, but by doing it this manner, we hope to probably recycle up to 80% of our waste stream rather than as we're doing now, and actually get rid of it. So I think those are things that need to be pointed out. We have discussed this. We have not purposely kept people in the dark. I mean, I agree. We've met extensively on this and raised those issues and raised those questions and are concerned equally about it as the people who live nearby. Thank you.
Commissioner, or City Manager Biden, and then Commissioner McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Honor. I only wanted to also maybe, on top of the answers provided by staff, remind that during that process of site review, changes can be made. So if residents come and they speak explicitly to things that they would like to have addressed, it's within the site review process that those kind of amendments or changes would occur. So if they aren't hearing something that makes sense or that they still have concern about, they have an opportunity at that time still to affect the conditions of approval or non-approval for what's being proposed. So the standards that were cited by staff are the baseline, but again, until we get the detailed site review that shows what the berm heights would be, what the fugitive dust control measures would be, what the potential aroma or smell issues might be, what the lighting issues might be, it's really quite speculative. But you know, again, because of that engagement that we've had with the residents, and certainly the commission's aware of that, we send every contact forward. We're not ignoring those. They will all be addressed as part of that site plan review process.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
Just one quick note, because I know the smell was one thing I brought up, and I believe right now that the composting, at least the food items and that, it goes into a bin, a closed bin, and I believe we haven't had any complaints over at Public Works. The other thing is that I know the facility does have the ability to be sprayed down to control that. So I mean, we have vetted this very thoroughly, and I think staff has certainly been aware of kind of all of our good questions and rather, you know, odd questions. But you know, I think we've covered everything pretty good. So I'm comfortable moving forward with this project tonight. I guess if anyone else has any comments, I'll let them speak first.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Excuse me.
I will motion to concur with the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the 01-REZ-04-14 as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Stonehouse to approve the rezoning. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Cambenzi?
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Stonehouse, anything further?
Well, only that this is a step, and as was explained, when we get the site plan review is when we will be addressing, I think, the issues that we all have and have great reason to be concerned with as to the operation of the facility.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
Just to follow up, maybe if we could just make sure that the residents living around there do have the dates coming up as well as any future meetings about this. I think if we make an extra effort to notify them and make sure that they have the ability to come and speak, that would be great.
Okay. Commissioner Coyne?
Well, I agree, and I think in addition to what we've said, how hard we've worked on this, we're approving the Planning Commission, which also worked hard on this. So the accusation of this is just like nobody knows and so forth, I mean, we've worked hard on it, and the Planning Commission has worked hard on it, and I think the issue, why I will support it, is that the next set of meetings is where the rules of how this is actually going to work, and the citizens ought to be there voicing their concerns, so when those are up for a vote that they would include their concerns rather than ignore them. I mean, that's all we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Any other commissioners? I guess I just want to weigh in on this matter. We have been looking at this for a number of months. There have been a number of PALC meetings. I can understand the concerns that have been voiced. I guess I'm an optimist, and I side with the position of Commissioner Cambenzi. I think we can address these concerns. We need to address these concerns. We need this recycling facility. It's an important part for our city, and actually the greater community. It'll serve not only the city of Marquette but other jurisdictions also. And recycling is something we really need to do. We need to extend the life of our landfill, but we also want to do that not at the expense of our citizens. So I would encourage staff that as the various review points come up, that we not only publicize it, but perhaps maybe we can, some of the interested persons can be notified of the site review plan, et cetera, and so that they are a little more aware of it. If there are no further comments, I guess I would entertain the question. All in favor? Yes, we're going to do roll call on this.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll restate the motion first. It's been moved by Commissioner Stonehouse, seconded by Commissioner Kimbenzi, to approve the 01REZ0414 rezoning at 1415 Pioneer Road. Is that sufficient, City Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, would you proceed with the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Commissioner Kimbenzi?
Yes.
Commissioner Campana?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Yes.
And Mayor Nemi.
Yes. The motion is passed unanimously. I will just repeat that on Monday, May 5th, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the Peter White Public Library Chevres Room, that's upstairs, there is a forum that people can attend and express concerns, get additional information on the entire process, not only the mechanics, but the location. Tuesday, May 6th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., Peter White Public Library Chevres Room. Again, that Chevres Room is upstairs of the library. And Wednesday, May 7th, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Marquette Commons. And I would encourage anyone interested to attend those and express their concerns and also gain additional information. And if the staff cannot answer the questions that night, I'm sure they'll get the information and provide it. And those the announcement of that is on our website, and also is it going out to the media, or has it gone out to the media, this public service announcement? Has it been in the media yet, or?
I'm not aware offhand if it has been or not.
So it's probably coming in the newspaper in the near future. Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the protocol here, but is there any possibility at this point to change the agenda? We've kept people we want to honor standing in the hallway for an hour now, and I think you could probably deal with that fairly quickly.
We can. Typically, public hearings we announce, but I think everyone who's interested in public hearings here, perhaps we can process the hockey team in before this next public hearing.
I would move we do that if that's proper.
Okay. Thank you all. We'll do that. Where's my list? We have the 2014 Michigan Amateur Hockey Association Tier 2 Girls 16 and Under State Champions and United States Hockey National Runners-Up here. And to feed the team along with myself, we have Supervisor Limita from Marquette Township and Supervisor Walker from Chalkley Township. This team is not just a city residents, it's the Marquette community, and we as a city are not just feeding this, it is the Marquette community, so I've invited the two township supervisors who are most contiguous to Marquette to join us in this effort. Line up behind the podium there. And we will be giving you certificates. We may present the wrong certificate to the person. At the end, you can trade. The team will get all the certificates. So if you end up with someone else's name on the certificate, do not be concerned that you can switch them and get the correct certificate. I understand head coach Cornock is ill tonight. We have Coach Dietrich. Yes, sir. Okay. And Coach Ken Godfrey. Okay. Well, he's priming next year's team last year. Okay. Coach Goblin. Also absent. Okay. Coach Higgins. Okay. Coach Riesland.
Caitlin, she's at school.
Okay. So we have Rod Riesland. Okay. Welcome. We also have players. We have a bunch of certificates. certificates here, perhaps hand out, and maybe Commissioner Supervisor Nita might want to present them to. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Coach Riesling. Congratulations. Higgins. Okay. Congratulations. We have all the coaches taken care of? Good. We'll start with the players. Katie Pryor. You had your one. Like I said, all the certificates will be going to the team. So if you need to trade them around, or if you like someone else's certificate better, Allison Carlson. Lauren Fokker. Bolter.
Did, yeah.
Emma Kaznowski. Freya Holfrey. Sydney Higgins. Chloe Kraus. Sydney Cornock, I understand, is not here, or is she here? No. Okay. Kirsten Iwanski. Kylie Godfrey. Ashlyn Steer. Allie Polich. Okay. And Hannah Riesling. Last but not least. I guess on behalf of myself and the two supervisors, I guess we can't express enough the pride that we feel for what you've done for our area, our community. State champions is an amazing compliment, but to be U.S. hockey national runners-up is just amazing. And I think we owe these girls a big round of applause and coaches also.
Second of all, this guy in the back, Kurt Goodman. Thanks for giving me the time off. Appreciate it. This group of girls is an extraordinary group of young women. I mean, they came together. They had a rough season, and at the end, we just pulled it together, and it was something special. I'd like to thank all the parents who were part of it all year, all the other coaching staff, the city, everyone who supported us, everyone who donated to us. Thank you.
And I guess I'd like to thank my fellow supervisors, Mr. Newton and Ms. Walker, for joining us in this. As I mentioned, this isn't just the city of Marquette, this is the great Marquette community. We're proud of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will now proceed with our second public hearing regarding amendment of boundaries of the Local Development Finance Authority. Clerk Blue, do you have some background to read on this?
Thank you, Your Honor. Background, on August 29th, 1988, the City Commission created a Local Development Finance Authority, or LDFA, pursuant to Public Act 281 of 1986. The boundary was established to be the River Park Complex, the industrial park near Presque Isle. An LDFA is a state-recognized mechanism that local units of government can utilize for economic development purposes, such as creating jobs and increasing tax base. The state allows the municipality to have only one LDFA. The city and Northern Michigan University have been approached by a Smart Zone District established by the cities of Houghton and Hancock and Michigan Tech University to become a satellite Smart Zone District. The purpose of such a district is to help eliminate the conditions of unemployment, underemployment, and joblessness, and to promote economic growth in the city. The goal of the Smart Zone is to attract high-tech and similar type jobs and to be able to utilize special funding opportunities in order to attract such jobs. In order to accomplish the purposes of the satellite district, an LDFA must be established. Since the city already has an LDFA, the next step would be for the city to amend the boundaries to include the entire city of Marquette. This is a necessary condition to be successful in applying for and obtaining designation as a satellite Smart Zone District. This action would also put the city in better position to obtain special funding for economic development when such opportunities arise in the future. The tax millage rates and other fees will not increase as a result of this action. The current city limits will also not change as a result of this action. In order to amend the LDFA boundaries, a public hearing must be conducted. This public hearing was scheduled at the March 31st, 2014 City Commission meeting by the adoption of a resolution of intent. At this time, only the public hearing can be held and to record citizen comment. After a 60-day waiting period, the City Commission can then adopt a resolution which will amend the LDFA boundaries. The earliest this resolution could be acted on would be at the June 30th, 2014 City Commission meeting. And fiscal effects, none by this action. Recommendation, conduct a public hearing regarding amendment of boundaries of the Local Development Finance Authority. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'll now open the public hearing on the Local Development Finance Authority, the boundary adjustments. Any citizens wishing to address the Commission?
Hi, Gary Simpson, Chief Financial Officer, City of Marquette, 300 West Baraga Avenue. Really have nothing to add what was already in the background. I would just like to reiterate some things. In talking to quite a few citizens the past couple of weeks, and it was very good to talk to everybody. The prime question most everybody asks is, what does this mean to the average taxpayer? And it means really nothing. We aren't going to raise the tax millage. We aren't annexing property. This has nothing to do with the 3rd Street situation. It has nothing to do with the hospital possibly relocating. All we're trying to do is beef up the city's resume, try to put us in a better position to attract special funding opportunities, to bring jobs into the city, and hopefully we can increase the tax base. So that's all we're trying to do. There is no action to take tonight. To be June 30 before we can take any further action. And there's been quite a few people helping us out through this. Scott McInnes, who I will introduce. He's the trying to retire city manager for Houghton, and because of this, he's not able to retire just yet, but he drove all the way down just to be here, so he's really kind of an expert on not only LDFAs, but Smart Zone districts, and he can give you a few words since he drove all this way. So here's Scott McInnes.
Thank you. I just want to give you a few brief comments on the Houghton and Hancock Michigan Tech Smart Zone. As Gary told you, I stepped down as city manager February 1st for the city of Houghton. I am still on the MTech Smart Zone board. I was part of the committee that spent about 1.5 years applying for the Smart Zone status. I think we got it around 2002. I will tell you that the impact and the success that this has had is far greater than anything we dreamed when we put this thing together. One of our main goals in Houghton is to attract young professionals to our community. That brings additional tax base and increases the population. If you look at the population of Houghton, I think we had the largest increase in the UP for the 2010 census. Marquette, I think, was right behind us. But it's really a key to keep a community going for economic development is to attract young professionals. And also our goal was to keep the Michigan Tech students working and living in our community. And the impact that this has had on our community and just the atmosphere that we have has really helped us do that. I will tell you that we have since 2002, we've helped create over 400 jobs in our little community in Houghton Hancock in the area. Our Smart Zone budget is currently at $1.4 million, and we've received millions of dollars of state help for our Smart Zone. I will be around if anybody has any questions, and feel free to call me back at the City of Houghton if you have any questions or concern. We're very interested in helping Marquette become a satellite. We spent a lot of time over Sault Ste. Marie getting them their Smart Zone. We think it's great for economic development for the whole UP. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. Anyone else wishing to address?
I'll go next. My name is Rod Lysak, 1913 Bancroft Street here in Marquette. Two apologies first. I have a nasty cough. It's asthma. It's not contagious, so don't worry about that. Second of all, my information may be a little dated. My history before State Farm, I was a community development director in the city of Marshall. We were one of the very first communities that implemented an LDFA in our community. And at that time, the LDFA purpose was really designed specifically for business development, industrial parks, business center, and yeah, I think that would be a perfect use for the Smart Zone. My concern is you're encompassing the entire city. And I'm surprised that other organizations haven't stepped up and dramatically opposed this. Because if I recall, the whole purpose is, the number one purpose is to capture any increased tax dollars. Essentially, the way I understand it is, tax base is frozen. Any additional gain in taxes would go to an independent, non-elected board appointed by the council to decide what to do with that money. And when you freeze, if I recall, it freezes all those organizations that have taxing authority in the city of Marquette, such as the schools, such as the public library, as well as the senior center and every other organization. And if the intent is for this organization to capture residential tax increases, residential development, all those other things, I believe the act would allow you to hire your own work crews, to eliminate city employees. Now, that may not be your intent, and I'm not suggesting that's your intent. But those of us who have developed in Marquette and own business in Marquette realize that your intent today doesn't really matter because your predecessors are going to follow the rules of the law, which gives them as much rights and as many restrictions that the laws allow. So when I read this in my notification, my zoning notification, it threw up a huge red flag. So this could be a huge impact on the community. Yeah, you're right. My taxes as a resident will not go up, but any increased tax dollars that my place generates for all those other taxing organizations will not go to them. It'll go to an independent board. You can make arrangements with those organizations to be nice to them. But I don't believe the law requires that. So without knowing other information, and in addition, I have bylaws that says that the original resolution and the LDFA resolution of intent was attached, but it's not. So how can I tell what new laws are? I mean, I would think in a public hearing, if you say they're attached on the agenda, they will be attached. So I urge the council, I urge the community, I urge every taxing organization in the community, the employees at the city, need to take a strong look at this. Your intent may be good. The Smart Zone is a perfect purpose. But why does it need to encumber every residential? every single part of the city. The DDA is essentially a tax finance organization. They have a defined district. Why didn't you allow them to encompass, take over the entire city? Because that's not its purpose. And I don't believe the purpose of an LDFA is to capture tax dollars away from the city to an independent board that you guys appoint, which will have less public input. I don't believe the board has to be, they're not voted by the public like you guys are representing them. So I'm really worried about this and the long-term impact on our community. Smart zone, encompass a smart zone, I would be all for it. But you're not. You're encompassing every residential community, every residential section of this town, the entire boundaries. And I'm concerned you're setting a terrible precedence that those of us will have to live with 10 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lizick. Yes.
The sound issues that we've been having seem to have been cleared up. I just wanted to confirm from the commissioners that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that microphone on, Mr. Pence?
It says it's on.
Okay.
I'm Steve Pence from 453 East Michigan Street in Marquette. Mr. Mayor and Honorable Commissioners, thank you for allowing me and the rest of us to appear tonight. I appear on my own behalf as a single county commissioner from District 1, which encompasses 2 precincts of Marquette and an area north of there and west of there. But our board chairman, Mr. Corkin, is here, and so is Scott Urbish. We're here because as a whole we have some of the concerns that Mr. Lysak has, but I don't think we fear the draconian things he suggests, but we have questions. As you know, the county government has always supported development. We give a significant grant every year to Lake Superior Partnership for that purpose. We like job creation. We like the idea of the smart zone, the diversity. I've been to Houghton enough, and I know the good things that happen up there with their smart zone. The thing that got our attention in county government and sent us asking questions to people smarter than us at state government and elsewhere was the fact suggested by Mr. Lysak that it covers the whole city. And yet we have the idea that it's not the intent to do what Mr. Lysak fears, but rather to create perhaps TIFs or smart zones within the city in different spots. So the question is, how much of county government tax base will be captured, which could affect, with the rising population, rising demands, our ability to pay for increased services. We asked questions of the Treasury, and we got answers that were incomplete and actually more questions. What Treasury wrote to us was that the city of Marquette and what they're proposing has a lot of moving parts. If they have an LDFA with boundaries coterminous with those of the city, they can have multiple TIF districts in the LDFA. One of those districts could be a smart zone if they get the satellite designation, which Mr. McGinnis told us about. And so if there's a limitation and an opportunity for us to opt out of some things, that's a good thing, but we understand that we don't get to opt out of smart zone districts. We don't get to keep some of our tax base if, in fact, we think we need it. So Mr. Mills of Treasury goes on to say, so if your question is to the capture of county taxes, the expanded LDFA can capture all county levies except debt. The county commission can opt out of having county taxes captured from the expanded area within 60 days of a hearing, expanding the LDFA. If an MDC, which is the next Michigan Development Commission, creates an LDFA, the county commission can opt out of that one, maybe. So we come here tonight with more questions than answers, and I know it's early in the process, and we're just wondering what are the implications of this for our taxes and for the taxes of the school districts. And I have a thought as we sat back there and listened and considered this. And one of my questions is how much of the city would actually be proposed as a smart zone? And if we opt out within 60 days of the LDFA, can we and must we opt out of any sub-designations thereunder? And then, since we have more questions than answers, and don't fear a draconian intention by this commission, but maybe unintended consequences, we're wondering if perhaps at some point somebody from the city could present to our county board as a whole, since only 2 commissioners are here and we speak mostly of a general concern, but we certainly have, this issue came up before our last board meeting, but we took no action and we did not vote on it. So again, I applaud you for your efforts at job development, but we have significant concerns about a tax base and our ability to meet our obligations to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pence.
Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate I address some of this?
Yes, it would.
think
very
there's
much.
a big misconception. What we're proposing to do with the LDFA is exactly what we did with the Brownfield Authority, where the entire city's a brownfield district. And then out of that, you can carve your little TIF districts as you need. Same thing would happen with the LDFA. That's why we want to designate the whole city as a LDFA, not to baseline and freeze out the whole city taxes. I mean, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you if that's what we were planning. But there's a little more flexibility with smart zone TIFs where we wouldn't capture the full amount. We would just tell the state we're going to capture up to X amount of dollars. And then early projections are showing that the state would contribute almost $3 to every $1 the city contributes. County taxes would be 0 that we capture. We'd only be eligible to capture the technically 50% of the school taxes. Schools would not be harmed because what we capture from the schools, the state will reimburse the schools 100%. So we're trying to make very clear and sure that nobody is harmed. The brownfields, DDAs, schools, county, library, nobody's harmed. So that's the direction we're going. So this is why we want to set up the entire city as an LDFA, so that we can take advantage of not only smart zone opportunities, but any other opportunities that may come before us. So hopefully that answers questions. If not, people know where to find me. So.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Anyone else wishing to address the commission on the LDFA Smart Zone?
I'm Richard Anderson, resident at 407 East Michigan Street, and I can also add a little perspective on this. I've been working with the Smart Zone for about the last year and a half, primarily in partnering some of the technologies that have been coming out of Michigan Tech University with some of the commercialization know-how and companies and seed capital investors that are in this area. And over a period of about a year, year and a half, we've had some success in putting together financial packages and business mentorships, partnerships that have led us to understand that there's really a strong connection between the intellectual property and innovation that's coming out of one of the nation's leading engineering firms and the training capabilities at Northern Michigan University and the expertise in life sciences from Michigan State University and some of the major corporations here. And there's sort of been a kind of a confluence of events that have led us, at least not originally, to the conclusion that we could really set up a smart zone, but because of recent legislation with the state of Michigan, there are 3 communities in the entire state that will be eligible for a satellite designation. There is a advantage to a satellite in that the state, by selecting up to 3 satellite partners, the state will reimburse the city schools and the state school taxes for the capture. We've designed the Smart Zone to capture up to 4 mills of city taxes. That capture of up to 4 mills of the increment of increase in taxes over a period of time would be met by a 3-to-1 match earmarked for the city of Marquette for the entire 15 years. So for every dollar that is raised by the city, it would be met by a $3 match from the state. And I would say that this is really a potential partnership between 3 universities: Michigan State, Northern Michigan University, and Michigan Tech. One of the most successful smart zones in the state of Michigan, the Houghton-Hancock Smart Zone, which is really only number 2 to Ann Arbor in their success of creating jobs, investment, and technology companies. And it bridges the commercialization know-how and talent and training capacity in the Marquette region that has been emerging over the last 5-10 years, with companies that have now been successful here in the city that have grown globally. The regional partnership assembles sort of a critical mass and diversity of private and public sector partners to accelerate regional technology commercialization, and is supported through a variety of programs to support that. The leadership of Northern Michigan University and the College of Human Medicine at Michigan State University have expressed a willingness to partner with a satellite smart zone and have participated in several planning sessions. And there are private sector leaders representing medical devices, healthcare, natural resources, energy, information technology, social media, food processing, have agreed to lead technology clusters, and you'll be hearing from a few of those people tonight. So we look forward to this dialogue with the City of Marquette, and over the period of months to plan properly the way in which we can structure what really is a regional partnership that puts Marquette at the center of, I think, a lot of exciting capabilities in creating technology companies in a variety of sectors. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anyone else wishing to address the Commission?
Good evening. I'm Bob Esslinger from Northern Michigan University. I'm the Special Assistant to the President for Economic Development, and as well I'm the Director of the Center for Innovation and Industrial Technologies at the university. I'm here this evening as a show of support from the university for the effort to bring a smart zone satellite to the city of Marquette. We believe that this will be a unique opportunity for NMU students, staff, and faculty to collaborate with the city, with the MTech Smart Zone, and with Michigan Tech, as well as the region at large. And we'd like you to know that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Esslinger.
Hi, Carl Lindquist with the Superior Watershed Partnership. We just wanted to express our support for the Smart Zone, and not so much focusing on all the economic benefits, but there are also a number of environmental benefits in partnering with Michigan Tech and what Hancock's been able to do over the last decade or so, and other regional partners that make up their Smart Zone. And, you know, last year the city hosted the Great Lakes Cities Conference, had over 100 U.S. and Canadian cities here. And one of the reasons Marquette was selected was because of some of the innovative Great Lakes protection work that the city's been doing. And next week, a number of collaborative projects that the city has going will be featured at a statewide green infrastructure project or conference in Lansing. And what we're finding with Great Lakes funders at state level, federal level, and private foundations is that they're looking for more innovative approaches to Great Lakes issues, environmental issues in general, that can be replicated with other communities. And the idea of partnering closer with Tech and Houghton and other communities is just seems to make sense to us. And so we see it as kind of taking us the whole city of Marquette a kind of a quantum leap forward. So we're supportive for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindquist.
Mike Quayle, 1700 Mildred Avenue, Marquette. I had some prepared comments tonight, but I'm not going to bore you with them now. I learned more tonight in this last few minutes listening to these gentlemen that have come from other areas, have worked with these things, than what you folks provided to the citizens of Marquette in the mailing that we got that told us virtually nothing. I have to commend our mayor, Robert Nemi. After I got the notice, I tried to understand it, didn't understand it. I had some other folks call me, and they didn't understand it. So I got a hold of Mr. Nemi, and he was kind enough to return my phone call, and at least we were able to understand that it was the smart zone that we were talking about here. I personally don't have a big problem with adopting a smart zone here in Marquette. Sounds like there's a lot of positive things to it. My concern is this, is that I don't know how many of you have looked and read the act. It's 27 pages long. I have read it. And like Mr. Lizak says, once you adopt that, you're not just adopting the good things and the intentions of what city staff or city commissioners or city managers are talking about here tonight. There's nothing definitive. You have provided us nothing definitive except that law, that act, that you are anticipating adopting. There's a lot of bad baggage with that particular act, in my opinion. There's the good things that have been brought up here tonight, but there's a lot of bad things, wide brush sweeping issues in there, including condemnation of property in the idea of economic growth. And I don't know that that's going to be real acceptable to the citizens of the city of Marquette. I understand that it's a reality and that in the state and the nation, but I don't think it's going to be real acceptable. I think we heard the other public hearing tonight. There was some concerns about hearings and so on and so forth, the information given out, and it sounds like you tried to do that with that particular issue. I would be willing to listen and hear what yous have done to date on this particular issue. To the best of my knowledge, there was some talk back a while, probably a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, about a smart zone. From my recollection of it, the city manager was tasked with moving forward with this and trying to get some information on it, and that I don't recall hearing and that we had to have this particular district established. Didn't know that we had one established back in '88. I somewhat question if it's really even a valid authority at this point. You just haven't used it since, I think, 1988 or 1990. You have no board that I'm aware of that's an active board that is required by that act. And so I really don't know, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm hoping that Mr. Keefe has looked at this and can answer some of these questions. But I guess to make a long story short, what I would propose is you've got, I think they said 60 to 90 days to act on this thing. I think you really should have some forums on this thing. I would like to take and see a show of hands as to how many people here tonight are here because of this smart zone and because of this tax thing. Quite a few. So I think all these people have some issues, and I really don't think in this particular thing, and I may be wrong, but I don't think you did a good job of advising the citizens of just what this was about. And I would encourage you to maybe have a forum or a couple of forums where people can come forth and have a working session, and that where you can exchange information back and forth. not necessarily a formal situation, although I was very glad to see what you did with the last public hearing to suspend the rules and be able to answer some of those questions. But I really think that's needed in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quayle.
Frank Jeff Barreto. 350 East Ridge, Marquette. I also did not understand the letter, so I emailed the city manager's office and was told that the agenda would be out soon, because even in advance of that I had tried to locate some information on the city website, and absolutely nothing that I could find anyway was available, and it didn't seem as though the manager's office was able to provide anything either other than what's on your agenda supplement. And I then wrote back to the city manager's office that since that letter had been mailed to every taxpayer in town, I believe it would have been fit to have had a lot more information on hand so that people could have found out a lot more before the publication of the agenda, and even the information in your agenda supplement is somewhat confusing.
Thank you, Mr. Barreto. Anyone else?
Jesse Schramm. I just wanted to point out that the two issues we've had tonight have both complained of poor communication. I agree that this financing district was, the government officials do this stuff every day, and Mr. Stonehouse pointed out that maybe us that spoke on the first thing, we're living under a rock or something to miss the communication, but I didn't appreciate the criticism because when you elect officials, you trust them to make decisions because you can't pay attention to every detail. In regards to the first issue, the same thing. They didn't ever, that I saw, disclose an address. They only notified people within 300 feet. There was nothing in the letter that said that it was a dump site, as is this. I mean, if they would have clarified, you guys could have saved yourselves an hour and a half tonight just with some clarification in these letters that go out. So I would urge the commission to look at the communication lines of the city, and when they send these letters out, to eliminate some of these discriminating facts that waste a lot of everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schramm.
My name is Craig Miller, and I live up in Shiras Hills, 1013 Alloway Road. I support the smart zone, all of the concerns that some people have about possible condemnation of property. The only thing I can say is that this should be approached very carefully and judiciously, not just because of the backlash in public opinion. Also, there is that pesky document called the State Constitution, which back in 2006, voters approved an amendment which prohibits the use of eminent domain for anything other than a government or public project. You can't use it to make way for a private development. And you have to, whatever authority is trying to use eminent domain has to prove that it is a public project and it's not going to be transferred to to a private developer. And under the amendment, any property owner that has his property condemned and taken has to be reimbursed 125% of market value of that property. So if somebody owns $400,000 piece of land, the authority would have to ante up about $500,000 to pay for it. That's in that constitutional amendment. It was passed in, I believe, 2006. I'm sure the city attorney can probably elaborate on that in a little more detail than I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Hello, my name is Lee Francisco, 1714 Gray Street. I'm the CEO and founder of 906 Technologies, and I'm here to support Marquette Smart Zone as a leader of a technology cluster. I think Marquette Smart Zone will offer numerous opportunities for local job growth, innovation, collaborations, and recognitions throughout the state and hopefully the country, all of which can lead into promising futures for local residents, college graduates, and entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francisco.
I'm Brian Dixon from 123 Chocolate River Trail in the Chocolate Township. I'm here on behalf of myself and testifying in favor of the amendment, in particular as it relates to the smart zone development. I'm a sports medicine physician here in Marquette. Been working for the last 5 or 6 years collaboratively with a variety of different institutions, particularly Northern Michigan and Michigan State University, to try to increase our research infrastructure as related to healthcare, and the combination of the smart zone and the work that's being done up at Tech, what we're trying to accomplish on a clinical basis, and the regional outreach of healthcare melds very well. I strongly believe this is going to be a very critical step for us transitioning from local healthcare to a destination center where we not only can attract patients to come for high-level care, but also can attract people who want to live and work here, jobs that are created, and I think it fits very well with the spirit of the UP and our cultural lifestyle. I think it's important to think about partnering with the great research capabilities up at Tech and some of the more practical hands-on stuff we have here in Marquette in terms of orthopedic device development, hands-on practical training with the medical school, nursing school, athletic training, exercise science. And I think there's tremendous potential to be had here. Certainly was interested to hear people's concerns, and I appreciate that, but I think to move forward as a community, you also have to trust each other. You have to be willing to trust that we're going to look out for each other's interests and do what's right for the community in general. And I think that's the spirit I've always found since I've lived here. It's one of the reasons that I stay and live here and make my home here, is the sense of progress and potential that's available. And I see this smart zone as a really important step to continuing that wonderful trajectory that you all put us on as leaders of this community. So again, in strong support of the smart zone, and be happy to answer any questions or be available from a healthcare standpoint in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon.
Good evening. My name is Dan Weber. I'm not a resident of Marquette, but I am a resident of the Marquette business community. I'm a board member of the MTech Smart Zone and have been since last November. I was the former CEO of Pioneer Surgical, and just want to share a few comments about how important and how impactful community sport can be on a company, including leveraging the universities that are a part of this community between Houghton, Hancock, and Marquette with Northern and Tech. As you know, Pioneer enjoyed significant community support, and that support was there to help it get started, as well as help it foster its continued growth, as well as the universities of both Michigan Tech and Northern Michigan. Fully 1/2 of the employees of Michigan Tech, or of Pioneer Surgical, the former Pioneer Surgical, came from Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech in various capacities, including communications, accounting, research and development, engineering, quality, and operations. So it does lend itself well to a location for commercialization of technologies. The Marquette community does. Those people generated over a period of 20+ years well over 150 patents and probably 80 or 85 patents that were pending, at least at the time of my departure. So they generated a significant amount of intellectual property that then the company turned into commercial products, and over its history it was well over 30,000 commercial products since inception. That's a significant capability within this community. My affiliation with Michigan, or the MTech Smart Zone, has been short, but the impact that the MTech Smart Zone has on the Houghton and Hancock communities is significant. You can see it in their presence in the community and their recognition by the community. You know, as Scott mentioned earlier, there was over 400 high-tech, high-value employment opportunities created in those communities, which has a long-term benefit to increasing the economic value of the region. And you know, in that they started up more than 40 companies, more than 10 of which are sustainable and continuing to add employees and growing, you know, which will add to the base of their economic landscape. They also attracted significant Fortune 500 investment in the community by, you know, soliciting investment, earmarked to be able to expand employment opportunities for those graduating from tech, as well as for those students that were developing capability that could be used ultimately by those companies at a later date. They facilitated, you know, this is one of the one of the key things that you know, a smart zone can do for a community. It can leverage recognition. For example, the smart zone, the MTech Smart Zone, has done that for several companies, and in their 10-year history, 5 out of the 10 years, they've had companies listed in the top 50 companies in Michigan to watch, which I think is a significant accomplishment. You know, in that 10-year history of that smart zone. That's a, you know, as I think about it, in conclusion, and being a member of this business community and having a stake, you know, to both do it regionally as well as, you know, locally, because Marquette is the center of the Upper Peninsula, and from that it can be the you know, the bit of the hub of the wheel. You know, what we see and what we can leverage from Houghton and Hancock through their experiences, including dealing with the complexities of all these questions about how the tax works, how the, you know, how building condemnation works, all of those things were things that they've already been through that they can certainly help us facilitate understanding of and you know, get through those issues. But what I can see from my involvement is that it works. This is a unique opportunity with the satellite legislation that allows this to be done effectively for this community, and it's going to support a thriving economic outcome that'll support entrepreneurs who are innovative and create some foundation capability for company growth and job growth in this community. I'm really excited about it. I've been involved in this in dialogue for probably the better part of you know, a year now with Richard and others who, you know, have a real stake in seeing this be successful for the larger region and leveraging everybody's unique gifts to be able to do that. Hope you guys heard me okay, because it's hard. I can't hear myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Joe Van Osterhout, 1713 Kildall in Marquette. I knew nothing about this, and what I've heard tonight sounds very, very reassuring and optimistic and so forth, and I really applaud them for their being forward-looking in this. But having worked for the state for 25 years and having seen what's happened to PILT funding and revenue sharing and school funding, my question is, if the $3 for every dollar we spend disappears, is the city on the hook for any contracts or liabilities with regard to that, or are the funds with the authority all this available, and if that runs out, then that ends the liability?
Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. City Manager, we're not taking any action on this, but fellow commissioners, do you have any comments or questions of staff or comments that you'd like to make? Commissioner Ryan?
I just think it's all been very positive. I think maybe we learn a lesson with this, though. I think, number one, we've done a number of things. We've had public meetings on the Smart Zone, but as typically happens, no one comes to those meetings. But I think it's more a question of, we were trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The issue specifically here tonight on establishing the boundaries for this the zone here, was one piece of the puzzle. And I guess it would have been better if we could have showed people the whole puzzle so they knew how it was fitting together. And I don't say that as a criticism. I think, we all kind of learn as we go. But I think a lot of people had questions about why we were doing it, didn't have the background about the smart zone. And if we could have perhaps communicated some of that in the letter we sent to citizens, it probably would have been helpful. But again, I just think, as many people have said here tonight, this is an outstanding opportunity for Marquette, and hopefully we can keep it moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Reynolds?
I have nothing really more to add to what Don said, but I agree. I had some calls about the tax paperwork they received, and I agree it was confusing. And I went through all the paperwork myself and the Smart Zone and read all of that and about LDFAs, and to this point I now understand it, and this is a positive thing for our community, but I do wish that there would have been some way to make it less confusing for people, because even when I first read it, it was confusing. So just further note, but I am in support of this.
Thank you, Commissioner Reynolds. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Cambenzi?
I think I'm certainly just learning about this, and we do have 60 days. Everything has been positive that I've heard, but I've also heard some things tonight that will make me, and I'm hoping my fellow commissioners would agree, that we need to have some public meetings about this. We have 60 days. I think we've heard some concerns. Certainly a lot of positive, but let's bring the community together on this so that we can educate ourselves and kind of maybe throw out some of the things that we think are negative. Look at some of the long-term effects, look how it affects our, surrounding jurisdictions. There are a lot of questions out there. If all of us got a handful of phone calls or emails about this, I think we do have some work to do. And I guess in the next 2 months, I'd like to see 3 or 4 community meetings where we kind of bring people together and go through this together. So again, I think it's positive, but I appreciate everyone coming tonight and voicing your concerns and going through this with us. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambenzi. Any other commissioners? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Just to follow on that, boy, things are exciting in Marquette. And I mean, we've got really good stuff going on, and this is one of them. If you can't get excited about the Smart Zone and everything it can offer you and offer us as a city, as a community, as an area, you got to be 6 foot under. I mean, that's how exciting this is. And obviously, the more we can learn about it, the more we can get the public excited about it, the better it will be for all of us. Certainly more information out to the public is a wise thing to do, and to try and put it together in the form of a jigsaw, because that's what it is. But the opportunities, the dynamicism that it offers is just absolutely incredible. And we need to grab hold of this thing and ride it for everything we can, because the benefit is really there. And if you want to look at things in a little wider view, we've got a power plant that's going to go away. That's our biggest taxpayer in the city. We've got a hospital that may well go away too, and we can argue that that also is a major taxpayer. So when we look at how this city will go forward, how we will maintain the momentum that we have had, it is through mechanisms like the Smart Zone, teaming with MSU, teaming with Michigan Tech, that will get the development we need to have in the community, the right people in the right place doing the right things. And that's why I think everybody, at least on this commission, has been so very excited about the opportunity to work the Smart Zone. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse. Commissioner Coyne.
Well, I have a couple comments. I don't think people should feel badly about not understanding it. I would say it took me 2 months to understand what this was all about, despite people beating on me trying to explain it to me. And reading the act was miserable. I think the act has one smart thing, and that is tonight we are required not to immediately make a motion to approve this, but we have to wait 60 days. And I think the comments of tonight, the issues that were of concern that were raised are valid. I've had those same concerns. I've had them answered, but I've been dealing with this for months, and you guys, this is, a few weeks. So I think the idea of having some other meetings is a very good idea, and it's a wise thing to do because the concerns, even tonight, I've had some concerns answered that I was kind of worried about. So I appreciate Gary's answers very much, and particularly the people coming from Houghton and Hancock to express their experience, I think was very helpful. And along with what Commissioner Stonehouse said, I've been around a long time, and economic plans are very difficult to come by, and this is one of the most exciting that I've seen in years. And I hope we can get some more input, and then in 60 days, on June 30th at the commission meeting, then come to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Any other commissioners? Well, hearing none, I guess I'd just like to make a brief comment. I agree that it's a very exciting opportunity. I think this is something that I've seen the Smart Zone and learned about the Smart Zone in Houghton Hancock, and I think we can do equally as well in Marquette, and it provides us a real opportunity. And I guess I would echo, perhaps, City Manager, we could set up some forums like we have on recycling, and at various times of days and various places that it'll afford the citizens maximum opportunity to come to those forums, and perhaps they can also be televised and
Thank you, Your Honor.
recorded so that we can share the information.
Thank you, Your Honor. Already noted. I'd also point out that these were commission priorities from the earlier discussions, and we have 4 separate meetings set up coming up in the beginning of May to talk about how this effort fits in with all of the other economic development priorities of the commission. So there will be fertile opportunity for folks to come and become more informed on the issue.
Thank you, City Manager. Well, I guess we've dispatched that item. Pardon? Yep. We do have a presentation by the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee. Prior to doing that, I guess we're welcoming Mr. Frost to the Downtown Development Authority. I'm sure he found the Smart Zone very interesting, so I think I'll move his welcome up on the agenda before we require him to be here any longer.
We always amend them, or, pass a motion to extend it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to welcome you to the Downtown Development Authority. That's a city pin, and I'm sure you found it with your background. You probably found the meeting up to this point very interesting,
yes,
but
very interesting.
We don't want to necessarily require that you stay longer so that we can feed you and appreciate your willing to serve on the DDA.
Well, thank
Would
you.
like to
Thank you to Your Honor and the Commission for allowing me to serve on the DDA board, and looking forward to working with the City Commission and the DDA and moving Marquette forward as a great community that it is. So thanks for getting me in. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being willing to volunteer.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Chairman Robert Chapman of the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee. Mr. Chapman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My intention is to keep this very brief, non-controversial, and reasonably interesting. So I'll try and stick with that. I'm here to talk to you tonight about the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee, and I'm going to talk to you about committee activities over the last 12 months, plus I'll give you some information on some of our plans for the coming months. By way of background, what you see on the screen is the listing of the members of our committee, and I just want to make a couple of comments about this committee. This committee, in my experience, is an unusual one in that they have only one agenda, just one single agenda, and that is Presque Isle Park. And they concentrate on that agenda very admirably during our meetings. It's a great group. Everyone contributes at every meeting. It's amazing. I come home and I say to my wife, It's amazing. Everybody contributed again tonight, and they do, and that speaks to their enthusiasm, I think, for our park out at Presque Isle. Just to support that, I cannot remember, and I've been to many, many, many of these meetings, one meeting when we have not had a quorum. And I think that speaks well for the motivation of the members to attend these meetings and to participate. We have some members that have some unique attributes or characteristics, and I just want to highlight a few of those for you. One of our members is the executive director of the Moosewood Nature Center. So he comes with great interest in Presque Isle Park because his facility is right there, and he's very aware of what's going on in the park. We have another member who is probably the premier kayaker in Marquette County, if not the UP. He gives us, when there's not ice on the lake, a perspective from kind of lake level in terms of what's going on at the park. And on occasion, we'll pick up graffiti and things from rocks on the park that we are not aware of because he sees it from that perspective. We have another member who is an avid hiker, snowshoer, and mountain biker. He probes the interior of that park endlessly. He's out there constantly, and he keeps us appraised of what's going on deep in the woods in Presque Isle, areas that we rarely get to. And finally, our newest member is fortunate enough, I think fortunate enough, to live in a residence where he can look out his front window and see most of Presque Isle. So he also is tuned in to what's going on at the island and makes valuable contributions from his observations. Finally, I want to mention Carl Zuger, sitting back there, who is our staff liaison person for the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee. Carl is very patient with us. He keeps us on track, and he provides us with the information we need to get our job done. So we appreciate Carl's assistance. The purpose and goals of the committee are outlined on this slide. The committee was established in 1993 by the city commissioner to, as you can see, review and develop recommendations impacting the island, study and preserve the vitality of ecosystems on the island, encourage the maintenance and improvement of facilities on the island, and develop minutes, reports, and agendas for committee meetings. And that's what we try and do. I want to talk a little bit about accomplishments for the past year. We have a fairly significant number of them, I think. First of all, we received City Commission approval last year for the inclusive playground site at the island and its use, and we're excited about that project. We advised the Commission regarding the purchase of new chairs and replacement of a barbecue grate for the pavilion, and we suggested using pavilion alcohol permit funds to take care of those two items. We enthusiastically supported the replacement of the Presque Isle Park entrance sign, which you may recall was gone for about 3 years. And that project finally came to fruition and resulted in a lot of good activities. For example, there was a partnership between the city, NMU, the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, I'll get that right, Moosewood, local artists, and Native youth. There was also cooperation between city communities, committees. There was a creation of a Native American image, this is the sign, that will be used for decades to come. And I think if you haven't seen that sign, you should look at it. It's a beautiful, beautiful sign, done by a Native American artist. The project also involved Native American youth in a journal that documented the process of creating that sign. And finally, the project brought together two communities, the city and the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, with a common goal. We also advised the Commission regarding the approval of a DNR Trust Fund grant for new ADA accessible restrooms at the band shell. The old restrooms are in poor repair and not conveniently located. The committee members continue to monitor and report island graffiti for timely removal, and when we report that, the city gets right on it and takes care of any graffiti that appears on the island, so it's not there for very long. During the past year, we initiated discussion to remediate erosion around the Black Rocks area. I'll have a picture of that for you in a little while. We also continue to foster positive relationships with other city committees and nonprofit organizations, including the Moosewood Nature Center, Superior Watershed Partnership, Northern Michigan University, and the Marquette Beautification and Preservation Committee. We've maintained a full and vibrant membership of the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee. And finally, we're very proud that Presque Isle Park continues to be nationally recognized as an exemplary city recreational destination by major publications and social networks. Goals for the upcoming year. Many of our goals are included in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and ranked as high or medium priority. We're going to continue to monitor and support the all-inclusive playground project. We're supporting and encouraging implementation of the Black Rocks Access Area Erosion Control effort. We're supporting monitoring of the sand erosion behind the caretaker's dwelling in cooperation with the Superior Watershed Partnership. We're encouraging funding to replace bandshell benches. Those benches are old, not comfortable, and need to be replaced. We're going to investigate a tobacco-free Presque Isle Park, and we're going to do that in concert with some county health department people, some people from Northern Michigan University, and some YMCA people. We intend to identify locations and placement of additional points of interest signs. I'll show you a picture of that sign in a minute. At other park locations, we currently have a sign out by the break wall, which shows an aerial photo of the island and then the various points of interest on the island. And we think it would be good to have one of those at the pavilion and perhaps out at Sunset Point. We're also going to continue to encourage a full complement of enthusiastic members of the Presque Isle Advisory Committee. Opportunities for the future. The committee supports a park land use policy, and we'd like to develop Presque Isle Park usage guidelines to include how we deal with high-impact events, low-impact events, and how we protect natural areas. We're aware of the fact that there's concern about the Lower Harbor Park and its sometimes damage it receives from high-impact events there, and the need to somehow manage that. And we don't want to see a repeat of that at Presque Isle Park. We think it would be good to when we develop this proposed guideline plan for submission to the Commission, to include input from the Moosewood Nature Center, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and the Harbor Advisory Committee. These are just some pictures here. This is a shot of the erosion problem that I referred to by the Black Rocks. This is a path that goes up from the parking area to the Black Rocks, and it's kind of right next to the area that goes into the cove there. But as you can see, there's pretty severe erosion there, and we need to do something to remediate that. We have some people working on that. We'll keep you appraised of that. This is our points of interest sign that's located out at by the break wall, and that's what we would suggest replicating at the pavilion and perhaps another point. This is a diagram of the all-inclusive playground. This diagram was part of the Upper Peninsula Engineers and Architects consultation that they did for us, and as you can see, that playground is going to be located between the Moosewood building and the Island Store. That concludes my brief presentation, and I'll try and answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Any commissioners, questions? Mr. Campana? Commissioner Campana?
Bob, very good presentation. Seems like you have a very active committee and probably one of the more progressive committees. I mean, sitting here tonight listening to you, you've accomplished a lot on Presque Isle, and we should all be thankful for that. So, hope you keep it up, and I'm sure you will. You've got a good group. Thank you.
We're really fortunate to have the committee that we have. It's a very, very good group. I've worked with a lot of committees in my life, and this is one of the best ones.
Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Just to thank you for everything that you do, and please pass on our thanks to the members of the committee.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Kim Benzie?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, too, and certainly I think Mr. Olmsted, who was the one who had the vision for the island, would be proud of us today, because I don't think it looks too different than what he probably imagined going forward in time. So I thank you for being the gatekeepers of really our prized jewel. I appreciate the work you do, and I do have an idea for a grant, I guess, for the park benches that might help. So I'd be interested to talk to you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Any other commissioners? Hearing none, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Chapman.
much.
We
Appreciate
appreciate your service. We appreciate your committee's service. We appreciate your report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda are proclamations. And the first proclamation we have is Municipal Clerks Week. And we will give our clerk a break, and I will read the proclamation. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas the municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas the municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations, and whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of Municipal Clerk. Now therefore, I, Robert Niemi, Mayor of the City of Marquette, hereby declare May 4th through the 10th, 2014 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our Municipal Clerk David J. Blue and our Deputy Clerk Chris Hazaras, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services that they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Thank you for your service, Mr. Blue. Now our clerk will get back to the work of clerk, and he will read the next proclamation.
After that brief vacation. Thank you. This is a proclamation for the 2014 National Arson Awareness Week. Whereas the theme for 2014 Arson Awareness Week is Vehicle Arson, a Combustible Crime, and whereas according to the U.S. Fire Administration from 2008 through 2010, 14% of all fires were vehicle fires. Of these fires, 7% were intentionally set. And whereas the Federal Bureau of Investigation reported that over the last 10 years, 2003 through 2012, there has been an average of 14,737 vehicle arsons reported, accounting for 26.5% of the total arsons annually. And whereas we will we'll use the week of May 4th through the 10th to focus on the importance of a collaborative effort with the fire and emergency service departments, law enforcement, insurance companies, and the justice system to help reduce the unscrupulous crime of vehicle arson. Now therefore, I, Robert Niemi, Mayor of the City of Marquette, do hereby proclaim the week of May 4th through the 10th, 2014 as Arson Awareness Week in the City of Marquette, and dated this 28th day of April 2014, and signed Robert Niemi, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The next section of the agenda is public comment. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comments. Anyone desiring to
touching on the smart zone.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Craig Miller, 1013 Alloway Road in Shiras Hills. Yeah, it's exciting, and I have done some of my own research on it, and it's got a lot of good points to it. And one thing that's going to be necessary, especially if you're trying to attract businesses in town here, because I've done my own research on it, and I've talked to a number of businessmen here and even down in places like Iron Mountain and Escanaba, and they all tell me the same thing. One key aspect is competitive city utility rates, which as far as I'm concerned means that the City of Marquette should do everything it can to preserve and keep its city water departments and the Board of Light and Power, because they have the most, Board of Light and Power, especially the electric,
It's the most competitive electric rates probably in the entire Midwest. You know, myself, I only pay a running average of about $35 a month. Anybody getting their power from We Energy is going to be paying 3 times that much. And I had talked with one commissioner about, you know, my concerns over Duke Life Point, and a very good point was brought up that electric rates are low, like in Marquette Town, you know, wherever they plan to set up. If they got it from We Energies, would make it would be a cost drag on them because of the higher electric rates, and especially given their technology and stuff. So, and it's true that we could wind up losing the Presque Isle power plant. It's not EPA compliant. It's at the end of its serviceable life. It is the largest payer of PLT, and I hate to see that go, but Board of Light and Power is the second highest payer of PLT. And we are EPA compliant. We're way ahead of the curve. We have lime slurry scrubbers, bag houses, things like this, where the other utility essentially just paid fines and kicked the can down the road. And are already talking about burning biomass, or setting money aside for generating facilities, stuff like this. So this is very important, because if we're going to attract businesses in Marquette, the first thing they're going to look at is what the utility rates are going to be for water, sewer, electric, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else wishing to address?
Again, Wes Hosworth, 1800 South McClellan. I guess I got hammered a little bit tonight, I felt. I've tried to get involved with different things in the city. Give you an example. The Heartland Forest thing. I sat in a couple of meetings. It seemed like I wasn't welcome. There's no input. You've got a lot of personal agendas going on, okay? That's one example, I guess. And I just stepped back and said, you know, whatever. Doesn't matter. This dog park thing. There's an empty field out there, sitting out there, hasn't been used for years. We walked our dogs out there for quite a while. I said, well, we're going to make an off-leash dog park, a perfect one for people in the south part of the city. I did send some emails out. I think you've read them all. I talked to the city manager. He put me up with the Parks and Recreation. The ball got dropped. I don't know what happened. Nothing happened, okay? Dealing with the speeds in South McClellan, I think it's a big concern there yet. Chief may not. We've had one discussion one time, I think, a little bit about it. I think it's the perfect time right now for you to take MDOT to task and say, do another traffic study for us. What is safe there? The access you got to this right now is another access. I looked at the, being an engineer background, I looked at the study that was done back in, I can't remember the year, 2004, 5, whatever it was done, after 2008, I think it was. It wasn't very well laid out in my mind. Not why I would do an engineering study. What was to be done, whatever. It was pretty shabby, pretty quick. Maybe it was to accommodate the trucker that was doing it at that time. I don't know. The point you're putting this access is right there where the speed changes. And again, where speed changes, people are going, before that speed, they're going here faster before they get to that sign. The speed takes effect after the sign, okay? Not before, but people are going before. Coming the other direction, they should be braking before that. Doesn't happen, so you've got a very high-speed area in that. Again, MDOT, I talked to Andy Sycamore a while back. He said the city can request another traffic study. I think you should do it. You're going to have a hazardous area with all those trucks coming in and out of there, especially turning back out there. Chief may not agree with me. I don't know. I'm an engineer, Chief, by the way, you know, so that's, we discussed that a little bit, you know. So anyway, going back again to the discussion made by the engineers here on the zone. My son lives right on Presque Isle, not on Presque Isle, right on Pioneer, across from the access to the farm, if you want to put it that way. He works 12-hour shifts. He works 2 jobs. He was never contacted, never saw a piece of paperwork, never saw anything. So I don't know who you talked to. All right, you didn't talk to him. And he's probably one of the most impacted by it, by one of the other gentlemen that was here tonight. Again, it's a personal thing, but I'm looking at, I retired here, felt it was a good community, worked at the Presque Isle Power Plant for 36 years. Some of the facts you spent are not wrong, by the way, You know, some of the things you said are not appropriate. It is an environmentally compliant plant. It has been for years. I worked in that area. right now, somebody has to spend some money to do it. Coal can be burned, it can be burned effectively and environmentally sound. The rules keep changing. I was rolled in the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and everything to go along with them.
Your time has expired.
I'm sorry. Okay, it's time to take a vote, so maybe another meeting I'll speak again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser.
Hi, I'm Andrea Prinsteiner, 722 Pine Street. I just wanted to mention to the Commission that I am here to provide any insight or answer any questions that may come up in regards to Agenda Item 10. In addition, my husband, Weston Prinsteiner, and a representative from IDI, Ryan Kuja, is also here to answer any technical questions you may have. So when we get to that agenda item, just letting you know I am here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Prinsteiner.
Good evening. My name is Rita Hodgins. I live at 1402 Kimber, Marquette. I'm here to talk with you about a petition that the Marquette Citizens for City Lakeshore Preservation is circulating. Our goal is to have representation signatures from every neighborhood in the community. Currently, we have been in the Kildall edition, the Elder edition, the neighborhood of Marquette General Hospital, and we started today in North Marquette. To date, we have 142 in-person signatures. We have 64 online signatures. We have an online site up called change.org. And we have 195 likes on our Facebook page. I've brought the signatures for you so that you have them. One thing we want to make very clear is that we have absolutely no issue with the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club. We support them, we applaud them, we admire what they're doing. We think it's great for our community. We love seeing their boats in the water, and we love seeing them on the shore. And we hope it continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgins.
Kelly Drake Woodward, 951 Highland Drive. That's in Chalkley Township. My husband and I also own property in the city of Marquette and are city of Marquette taxpayers. I'm just here to kind of update you on what the rowing club is trying to do to get the word out about the boathouse. You know, we're experts in rowing. We're not experts in public relations, but we would like to urge people to contact us for more information about the boathouse proposal before opposing the plan. So this is a reminder that you can look at our Facebook page, or you can email us at row.marquette@gmail.com with specific questions. We can send you the proposal and the drawings. Also, we will be hosting public open houses 4 times in May. This will be at our clubhouse location under the observation deck at Founders Landing. So there'll be 2 Saturdays, May 3rd and May 31st. That'll be from 12 to 2. And then 2 Wednesdays, May 14th and 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. This is an opportunity for people in the community to come there. We'll have the drawings posted. We should have our elevation drawing by the first one, May 3rd. We will also be able to answer questions about Learn to Row and about the Community Rowing Club. I would like to urge people to approach this proposal in a constructive and inclusive manner. And as an example, I want to reference Mr. Frank Verito. He had questions, about our proposal. He contacted us. He got answers for his concerns. He came forward, not from our perspective, not as an obstructionist, but with some constructive criticism. So he came and he proposed an alternative site. So for me, at least, he's coming forward with some kind of a solution and not just saying no boathouse for the the rowing shells and for the other people that it will benefit. There would be some things that I could address about the petition, but I guess that what I really want to talk the most about is that people, I think, have been led to believe that the community rowing club is some kind of exclusive or privileged private membership club. And I can tell you that nothing is further from the truth. And on behalf of all the generous volunteers who provide opportunity for members of this community to safely participate in group rowing, I do object to this. So please do not ignore the most important word in our name, which is community. We are recognized as public outdoor recreation providers in the Marquette area in your city recreation plan. You know, would you say that the Nokamanon Trail Network is a private club when all their work
You need to finish up.
okay, is dedicated to public trails? I don't think so. And so I think this is similar to what our club does in providing community group outdoor water recreation for Marquette and the area surrounding. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Sonderegger, 515 Spruce Street. It's already well past my bedtime, so I'll keep this fairly short. I'm here to talk about the rowing club, and from a fairness standpoint, it may well be that it makes sense to have a facility where we can launch boats. I think a study in that regard may well show that. My concern is, what are we telling the city taxpayers? What are we telling other boaters? What are we telling the businesses in that area that rent boat storage space? So this is a fairness issue. I don't understand why we would be granting some special access for the rowing club people. One of the major costs that people that rent slips pay is for the infrastructure. We've spent a huge amount of money building the infrastructure at Founders Landing. So for them to simply build a building and get that free use, it's not a fair treatment to the taxpayers or to the other boaters. In addition, I looked at the budget for how it is that they will build this facility, and a great deal of that money is grant funding. The grant funding clearly belongs to the city. The actual money that would be put out by the private club is quite a bit smaller. So I look at it from a fairness standpoint. Look out for the taxpayers and the boaters in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sonderegger.
Frank Shefferdo, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. April 14th, Campana spoke out of order after my comment, making blanket statements like, I work with these people, they care about Marquette, so treat them with respect. Yes, they're decorous about town, and they interact well at work sessions while focused on one item, working toward a common goal. And here they govern by who's who rather than the validity of what's said. My comments center on only 3 topics: land use, items of great public concern, and the board's alleged deceitfulness. The worst example being your theft of closing comment, an insult to the fundamentals of democracy considering your self-serving reason. The alleged theft was conspired by Campana, Nemi, Coyne, and Stonehouse. And Dave thinks you're owed respect. His memory is short, while mine is long and well documented. How many times have I asked you to address specifics? The comments that upset Dave pertain to your failure to explain why the rower's current skull site wasn't considered in response to testimony by at least 4 residents. That's specifically why I insulted your integrities on April 14th. Plus dozens more examples on record. In many cases, broad statements like Dave's that divert emphasis off the issue and onto the complainant. You habitually utter true statements that circumvent the alleged allegations, specific allegations. You've been warned before that withholding discussion on critical points of an issue constitutes a breach of integrity. Although Dave has integrity, he doesn't know any better. If he wants to resolve issues, address specifics. Instead, he helped Coyne steal our closing comment, leaving us too little time to keep repeating the basics every time a new member comes on board. I've offered for years to leave if anyone shows I'm generally wrong, but you don't dare because the testimony is too stacked against you. Why else would you not discuss the rower's current site, if not for me, for the other speakers and 2 planning members? You're guilty even if there is a good reason for neglecting to adequately discuss the site. April 14th, Ryan chided Campenzi for suggesting his action was foolish. Stupid is a more fitting description. Then there's Ryan wrapping his pen and Nimi writing unrelated matters during public comment, and Coyne swearing and thrice threatening me in the men's room without the guts to apologize for his gross misconduct. I mean, what harm did you have in mind, Mike? Was it funny? And Dave has the gall to tell me to show them respect. Well, he's off to the most oblivious start of any member in 16 years on the worst commission in all that time. The one that dared to ban closing comment for reasons that amount to sheer cowardice and sleaziness beyond sin. When you're not forthright in here, you'll have your integrities insulted in specific details. So in your replies, please show the decency to address those specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Barito. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Jake Feather, 1708 Woodland Avenue. I'm the lead organizer for the Marquette Public Orchard, and I hope to be presenting formally to you soon. But I wanted to let you know kind of how the plans have changed, because last time I spoke to you in the fall, I was describing a dream of planting on the bike path a bunch of edible landscape. And I've been working with the city since then very hard to find a suitable site, because that bike path, I was told, wasn't suitable. So we've looked at several sites, and we've drawn up some very nice plans for the lawn here at City Hall. And I just wanted you to be aware of that, so that you're kind of prepared for that when the presentation comes, and I'm hoping that that's 2 weeks from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feather. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Hearing none, we'll close that section of the meeting, and we will proceed to the consent agenda. Commissioners, we have for us the consent agenda. What is your pleasure? Commissioner Ryan?
I move the consent agenda be approved.
Your Honor, there are 2 reimbursements on the bills.
Right.
With the exception of 2 reimbursements to
Commissioner Cambenzi and Commissioner Reynolds.
To Commissioners Cambenzi and Reynolds.
Okay.
I'm moving that we approve the consent agenda, including the total bills payable, with the exception of those 2 bills.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Is there a second motion? Commissioner Campana?
Seconded.
Okay. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan? Anything further, Commissioner Campana? Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Ryan.
Your Honor, I do have an addition to the minutes.
Oh, okay.
If
proceed.
Commissioner Ryan and Commissioner Campana will agree, in the minutes discussing the closed section, item number 9, after Commissioner Stonehouse's comments, I would just like to insert that I did disagree, and that I did ask Community Development Director Dennis Stakowitz to read the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act, Act 33 of 2008, that gives the city the right to plan for land in another jurisdiction. And I have copied the part that he read, and I would like that in the official minutes.
I have no objection.
Would you please provide that to the city clerk so we can make the appropriate correction? Okay, anything further on the consent agenda? Hearing none, as I mentioned, it was moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Campana to approve the consent agenda with the exception of reimbursements to Commissioners Cambenzi and Reynolds. All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. The motion passes unanimously. Now we have the issue of 2 reimbursements to the commissioners named. They would be allowed to abstain. Is there a motion?
I would so move, Your Honor.
Okay, is there seconded by Commissioner Coyne? Moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Coyne to approve the reimbursements to Commissioner Cambenzi and Commissioner Reynolds. I believe those were for the Michigan Municipal League Capital Conference. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed, say no. The motion is passed 5-0 with 2 abstentions. Commissioner Reynolds and Commissioner Cambenzi have what's the word? they recuse themselves. Okay, that motion passes. The next item is unfinished business. It's a park concession lease agreement with Mango's. City Clerk, is there some background item you can read?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Background, Vangos Incorporated has operated the concession stands at Matson and Presque Isle Parks for 2 seasons. Vangos is proposing to renew the 1-year lease, compensating the city with $900 per month for Matson Park Store and $600 per month at the Presque Isle Park Store. The city attorney, staff, and Vangos developed the agreement provided. The monthly rate is based on $9 per square foot plus utilities. Staff has reviewed comparable per square foot commercial rates and believe it to be a fair rate. Utilities are included with the per month fee based upon their prior year's utility usage. By privatizing, it allows staff to be directed toward other value-added initiatives. It also provides revenue generation, which has been weather-dependent. Fiscal effect, the general fund will receive at least $4,500 from the lease proceeds. Recommendation, approve the lease agreement with Vangos Incorporated for concession space at Matson and Presque Isle Parks, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
I move we approve the lease agreement with Vangos for concession space at Matson and Presque Isle Parks and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Is there a second for that motion? Pro Tem Stonehouse?
I will second the motion.
Commissioner Ryan, anything further?
Yes, this has worked very well for us. It gets us out of the business of being in concession stands and turns it over to people who know how to do it, and they've done it for 2 years, and it's worked very well.
No comment.
I asked this last year, but I would like to know if there were any other interests, I guess, with other vendors or businesses that are interested in this, or is this just kind of the only one we get?
This is the only interested party that we have at this point.
Supported by Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse to approve the park concession lease agreement. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. The next item of business is number 10, a request to purchase a portion of city-owned property located between 100 blocks of West Spring and West Main Street. City Clerk, could you please read background information?
Yes, Your Honor. Background. The city received a request to purchase a portion of city-owned property, parcel number 0151030, located between the 100 blocks of West Spring and West Main Streets from Ordoc Real Estate. In accordance with City Code, staff has reviewed the request and prepared a resolution authorizing the city manager to direct the sale of the property subject to conditions. See attached for the request as well as associated support materials. Fiscal effect to be determined based upon an appraisal of the property. Recommendation, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to direct the sale of the property in accordance with City Code. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, what is your pleasure regarding this item? We also have Mrs. Pernsteiner here and Mr. Pernsteiner who can answer questions. Do you have any, anything you want to? Yes.
Your Honor, I just had one clarification on the resolution. If you get to that point, I'd like to at least add in to that.
Do that. Commissioner Cambenzi?
Just a few, I guess, questions to staff about the utilities that run under there. If we were to sell this property, I think it's just storm sewer. Is that what runs under the property? What would that look like? I mean, would we still be responsible for that? And what should happen? Should we have to go in and...
The utilities that are located under the corridor would remain under the jurisdictional control of the entity that owns the utility, provided that an easement would be granted.
So we would have to ask that an easement be granted when we...
It's recommended that as part of any sale, easements be granted to allow for any future maintenance on those utilities, particularly the city-owned utilities. I believe there's also Peninsula Fiber. We have an agreement with them as well for utility infrastructure under there.
Okay. The only thought I had in looking at this, and I did contact Andrea, is just the value. And I know that it does have to go to an official appraisal project, but seeing how this piece of property really can't be used much, I am for the sale of it. But should the value come back, I guess what I'm asking is there another way, I guess it's for our city attorney, is there another way to do some sort of a land contract with them, or to...
This is new territory, but we're under our new real estate ordinance now, and so it kind of lays out what we have, the steps we have to go through.
Okay, so that 80, we can't accept less than 80% holds.
Correct, of the appraised value.
But could we do a 10-year, or something? I'm just making this up, but can we, I guess, have some leeway with how we would eventually get them the property?
If we sell the property, we have to go by this ordinance. If we were to convey it in some other method, like a license or a lease, that would be a different story. But if we're going to sell this property and they've requested to buy it, we'll have to follow the ordinance.
Your Honor, I would like to move we suspend the rules for discussion so we stay within the protocol of the commission.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, supported by Commissioner Coyne to suspend the rules. Rules are suspended. Just one clarification. Are you saying the ordinance would prohibit us to sell it on land contract or not?
No, what I'm saying is the ordinance tells us how we can sell real estate, whether we do it by deed or land contract. If we convey title, we have to follow this ordinance.
But we can sell by land contract if we so desire.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just by way of a little bit additional background, the Pernsteiners, the Ordog Brewery, have been interested in this property since before the new ordinance came into effect. And part of the discussion and the balance in that dialogue was the Commission's interest in selling all of the surplus property versus the community's interest, as evidenced by the DDA's endorsement and support for this project, in seeing that property put back to some type of purpose that adds greater value to the whole downtown area. We don't have an appraisal on the property, and as I believe Commissioner Cambenzi's pointed out, it's a very unusual piece of property. Part of the initial reports that we got back from our planning staff was that it would be difficult to put any kind of significant structure on that because of all of the underlying easements. The area is right now currently used as a snow area for the adjacent private parking lot. Snow's piled up there in the winter, and it's generally used only by skateboarders and by bicyclists in the summertime, in addition to an access walkway that was granted under previous license by the City Commission to get in the back area of the Ordog. So this is part of a long-term vision and plan that they've had in place that they've gotten good support for from the DDA as well as members of the community. we could certainly find a way to make this land available to them if we didn't have an outright sale. You've seen other circumstances of that with licensing and with leasing and things like that. That would be subject to the per Steiner's interest. But the resolution specifically includes two things that we would hope would address this. They will go out and find an appraiser and come back with an appraisal. And until that time, I'd suggest maybe we remain aware of that potential outcome, but we should probably let the process work. The second one, more importantly, is this you'll see is kind of a standard land sale agreement. It's really kind of an anti-speculating clause. When the purse signers go down this path, really compels them to put together their development plan and get it back before the city commission in what we believe was the intent of the commission, not just selling off surplus property for different folks to sit on it forever and not do anything with it, but to accomplish a very specific goal as evidenced by the support in the community. So our recommendation would be, based on all of those things, based on their longstanding interest, we let the process work. If it comes back and we need to face choices perhaps other than sale, that's something that would be subject to follow-up discussion with the commission.
Okay. Commissioner Coyne?
Could I ask Andrea a question? Could you come up here? We have the map of the property, and I came to visit you today, and you were closed. But,
we are closed on Mondays.
I went out to look at the back,
Yep.
and I couldn't tell from the map. Does that end at your property, or does it go to the next property and behind it?
It ends at the proposal ends at our property.
Okay.
Correct.
That's all I need
Okay.
to ask you. The next question I have is there in the policy for selling, is there any requirement that we let the neighbors know that we're doing this, a la our discussion earlier this evening, that no one knew anything about stuff?
Well, if you pass the resolution that's before you tonight, the policy says that it shall be published once at the first opportunity following its passage in a newspaper of general circulation within the city, and the resolution and appraisal shall be made available for public inspection by, or at the city clerk's office, rather. And then there's a second resolution, so this is like the first step in a process under this new real estate policy.
Yes, City Manager.
Yeah. I also point out they'll still, of course, have to go through all the site plan reviews and the planning commission processes to start construction on anything. So this the policy merely speaks to the sale of the property, not all of the subsequent uses that any tentative owner would be responsible for complying with.
Yeah. Thank you, City Manager. Commissioner Ryan?
I guess I'd just like to say that I oppose the provision in the real estate policy that requires the 80% that no property can be sold except for 80% of appraised value. I argued then that if 5 commissioners agreed it was a good idea, then it was a good idea. But we're stuck with it now. So, but I also went there today, and frankly, there is no other use for that property. I mean, and the property beyond it, there's even less use for that. It's kind of turned into a drainage ditch. So I would like to move that we pass a resolution authorizing the city manager to direct the sale of the property in accordance with the city code.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, supported by Commissioner Coyne to adopt this resolution, and our city attorney has a couple of minor additions he wants to make, some legal terms.
I was only going to suggest, Your Honor, that the second paragraph of the resolution, in addition to easements, that this shall be subject to any restrictions, reservations, liens, or encumbrances that are in the recorded chain of title. We could put that language in the resolution and have it for you, and also on any deed or land contract that might end up being done in this case.
Thank you, City Attorney. Any other comments by any other commissioners? Commissioner Cambenzi.
2 things. One, bank lighting. Do we have an agreement right now with the bank? I guess I did see that and utilities? Is there?
I'm not aware of any agreement, but that will be part of our research that the city attorney just had mentioned.
Okay.
It does appear that some of those standards are located on the city property.
Okay, and then the last one, I was on the planning commission when we talked about the rail, possible future rail line, but I think at the time we determined if the Marquette station went in, that would be kind of the ending point. Looking at, should we ever convert the bike path to a rail that goes, I guess, west of here? But just not to overlook the planning commission's planning, but just wondering if Dennis had any thoughts on that.
Your original comments were accurate. The planning commission had determined that the preservation of the existing corridor as it went behind the Marquette building, part of that site plan, and going out for the city from that point would be the route rather than this location here.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's not power. It's not power. Okay, sorry about that. Commissioner Cambenzi, are you finished? Okay. Any other commissioners have a comment or concern? It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Coyne to approve the resolution with the addition of some legal considerations by the attorney in paragraph 2, which will be inserted in the clerk's final copy of the resolution. All in favor of the resolution? Does this have to be by a roll call vote? Okay. All in favor of the resolution say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed to the resolution say no. There being no negative votes, it's passed unanimously, and the clerk will do whatever he needs to do. The next item is number 11, Presque Isle Marina, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Waterways Phase 2 grant. City Clerk, is there any background information on this?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. At its March 26, 2012 meeting, the City Commission authorized submitting a Michigan Department of Natural Resources Waterways Grant Program application for Phase 2 Presque Isle Marina boat launch reconstruction. The city anticipated funding this last year, but understood State Department project funding was redirected by the governor toward emergency dredging needs. The city grant application was moved forward by the department for 2014 funding consideration. In December, staff received correspondence from the department indicating the Phase 2 application was successful. Recently, the city received a waterways grant agreement. The grant agreement totals 50% of the total cost, project cost, not to exceed $201,200. Grant proceeds are solely for the conduct and completion of the project work. The term of the grant is 3 years from the date of issuance. Upon approving the grant agreement, the city will be authorized to proceed with engineering, design, and regulatory permitting boat launch reconstruction. It is the intent of to have engineering and design be completed by the Community Development Engineering Division, anticipating a spring 2015 project. All internal costs associated with the project are reimbursable to the extent outlined in the grant agreement. The project was encumbered for the fiscal year 2012-13 capital improvement budget. It is intended that the local match, or $201,200, will come from a capital improvement general obligation bond. The city issues capital improvement bonds annually and would need to be included in this year's bond issue. Future principal and interest payments for such financing is to be paid from the Presque Isle Marina Fund. Any shortfalls from the Marina Fund will require general fund subsidy. When receiving department grant proceeds, the city is obligated to provide sufficient income to defray operating and maintenance expenses of the project exclusive of depreciation. Any fee associated with the project shall be approved by the department in perpetuity or a minimum of 20 years from the latest grant award. Any net revenues shall be reserved in a restricted account by the city for future maintenance or expansion of the facility. Fiscal effect, $201,200 from the 2014 capital improvement obligation, general obligation bond. Future principal and interest payment would be funded through the Presque Isle Marina Fund, with any shortfalls being subsidized by the general fund. Recommendation, approve the Waterways Grant Agreement totaling $201,200 to reconstruct the Presque Isle Marina boat launch. Authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement and resolution, and include the local match totaling $201,200 in the capital in the 2014 capital improvement general obligation bond issue. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, what is your pleasure regarding this item? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
I motion to approve the Waterways Grant Agreement totaling $201,200 to reconstruct the Presque Isle Marina boat launch, to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement and resolution, and include the local match totaling $201,200 in the 2014 Capital Improvement Plan General Obligation Bond issue.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Is there a second to this motion? Commissioner Cambenzi?
I'll support.
Thank you. Anything further, Commissioner Stonehouse?
Well, again, this is part of a long-term plan the commission approved some time ago, and certainly the boat launch is critical for the use of that harbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi, anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay, any other commissioner? Commissioner Campana?
This might be a rookie question, but what if you don't spend all the money? What happens to it? The grant money. What if you don't? If you only spend $300,000? Huh?
Mr. Zuger will be able to answer that.
This is a reimbursement grant, and so it's up to $201,000, which is a 50% match.
Okay.
It's a reimbursement grant, so it's not. We're not issue a check for $201,000. It's we have to actually incur the costs, and then we're reimbursed.
So you only get paid for what you spend.
Correct.
Up to
$201,000.
So it'd be a good idea to spend as much as you can, up to 201. Is that how that goes?
It would be best to spend as much money as you need to get the result that you've planned for.
Get the results, sure.
As long as it's not over $402,400.
I got a second question. The thing is, the city has to maintain it for perpetuity, or 20 years. So we're committed for 20 years?
Yeah, that's correct. That's a term and condition under state law.
Standard. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Ryan?
I have a question. I'm not quite clear on this. Is this for the construction or for the design and engineering? The actual grant?
Construction.
Okay. And when we say it is the intent to have the engineering and design completed by the Community Development Engineering Division, we're talking about in-house?
Correct.
Do we get credit for that work?
Yes, we'll track our hours, and that'll be reimbursed.
So that will be part of our match?
Well, it'll be matched, and that 50% of it will be reimbursed.
Okay.
So the way it works is engineering design is part of the project. The city can either have a professional service agreement to do that, or we can do it in-house. We're opting to do a portion of it in-house. All of the time that will be put into the project will be tracked. We submit that our expenses for that portion of the project to the state, and they will reimburse us for their share of the project.
And is that part of the
50%.
$402,000?
Correct, yep, yes.
Okay, so it's not just construction, it's construction and
Well, it's
design.
a complete project.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? City Manager, did you have a comment you want to make?
Yeah. Only the term we use is design build. And so a complete project is the engineering work and the construction work combined.
We'll design, someone else will build. Okay. If there are no further comments, I'll call the question. All in favor of, it was moved by Commissioner Stonehouse, seconded by Commissioner Cambenzi to approve and accept the MDNR Waterways Phase 2 grant. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda, I guess, could I have a motion by the commission to work after 10 o'clock if so necessary? Because we're probably going to go more than 6 more minutes.
So moved.
Commissioner Coyne, second. Commissioner Cambenzi. All in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, no.
Kind of.
Kind of.
But I'll let it go.
It's either no or
All right.
yes, not
Yes,
kind
then.
of.
All right.
Okay, but your sentiment's noted. Motion passes. We have free license to extend into the wee hours of the morning if so needed. City Clerk, would you read the background on item number 12, the Cinder Pond Marine Electrical Service Project?
Yes, Your Honor. At the April 14th, 2014 meeting, the City Commission approved up to $260,000 to fund remediation efforts for the Cinder Pond Marina Harbor Service Building. Staff solicited 3 proposals from local contractors for electrical services. All 3 proposals were similar in scope and include labor, materials, engineered drawings, and permits. The price breakdown is as follows. JP Electric Professionals, $67,280. Code Electrical Incorporated, $69,498. Excuse me, and Mandel Electric, $72,500. After careful review of the proposal, staff recommends JP Electric Professionals Incorporated. Their proposal includes relocating the main electrical switchgear to an outside enclosure and splicing new copper feeders from the docks to the switchgear. The relocation is necessary excuse me, to maintain electrical service to the pier, pump out, and fuel systems after the building is demolished. It is recommended an additional 15% contingency, or $10,092, be approved to address any unforeseen conditions. The total cost with the contingency is $77,372. Fiscal effect: the city has submitted an insurance claim totaling $77,372 to the Michigan Municipal League Property and Liability Pool for the electrical service relocation. Any shortfalls will be funded through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Waterways Emergency Grant Program, and Cinder Pond Marina Fund or General Fund. Recommendation: award the Cinder Pond Marina Electrical Service Project to JP Electric Professionals Incorporated, totaling $67,280 plus contingency, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioner Coyne?
I move that we award the Cinder Pond Marina Electrical Service Project to JP Electric Professionals Incorporated, totaling $67,280 plus contingency, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
Okay. Is Commissioner Ryan?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Ryan to do as Commissioner Coyne delineated. Anything further, Commissioner Coyne?
No.
Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Yes, I'll very much support this because we had said we want to move ahead and do what we can to get that area working as best we can. I do have a quick question. Was this amount similar to what we estimated in the proposal we received?
Yeah, we're like a few percentage. Yes.
Okay. And the second, is the plan still to make a permanent change here so that this is not a temporary fix?
This is a permanent fix.
Okay. So we won't have to redo it when we construct a new building?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have a quick question, Mr. Zuger. When we mention any shortfalls will be funded through the Department of Emergency Grant, is our insurance refunds primary and then the emergency grant will cover expenses over that, or?
Yes, it's the intent, and we've already submitted it as a claim to our insurance company. Any shortfalls will be covered by the Waterways grant, which has a 50% local match, as you know.
But Waterways doesn't intend to supplant the obligations of our insurance company.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any further, Commissioner Kimenzi?
Just one question. I think I've heard a few community members say that the cinder pond was supposed to be 100% funded through insurance. So I think when they see general fund dollars with this, I think they get a little nervous. Typically, would we wait to see what we got back from our MML pool before we would, I guess, go ahead? I know we're on a fast track here, but I do think some community members are kind of wondering, okay, well, we spend a little out of the general fund here, and maybe that's not covered. And I think there's a little concern in the community about, how much general fund is this going to cover, I guess. I don't know if anyone can answer that.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's our goal not to spend any general fund dollars on this, and when we put that presentation together during the last meeting, we kind of showed what the hierarchy of funding was that we were going to be looking for. So the first tranche will be the insurance funding, the second tranche will be the grant funding, the third tranche is all the enterprise funding that the cinder pond generates, and then if there's anything left over beyond that, that's when you would start looking at general funds. So we believe we can do this without having an impact on general funds at this point. But in order to meet the pace of what we're doing, essentially this is just a fund management issue. How much money if this were a personal judgment, how much money are we moving back and forth between the checking account and savings account just to make sure the bills are paid and everything's balancing the money's where it needs to be when it needs to be there. As soon as the compensation comes back in, either from the insurance or from the grant funding or from the marina fund, that would be used to replenish anything that had come out of the general fund balance.
Okay. Anything further from any commissioner? Hearing none, as I've mentioned, it was moved by Commissioner Coyne, supported by Commissioner Ryan, to approve the Cinder Pond Electrical Service Project and award the Cinder Pond Marina Electrical Service Project to JP Electric Professionals, Inc., totaling $77,372 if necessary, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed to the motion say no. The motion passes unanimously. Well, we're making good progress. The next item on the agenda is comments from the Commission. We'll start with Commissioner Reynolds.
I'll be quick because it's late. But the thing that I wanted to bring up was unrelated to this commission, but related to the city of Marquette as a whole. Recently, I undertook a project of being the head of running a benefit for a young 14-year-old girl named Hannah Swajinen, who's a national athlete and who was diagnosed with a brain tumor. The amount of support that I've received from the community, that she's received from the community, the businesses around the city in the last 3 weeks has been astounding. And I can say that I do live in the best city in the market, the best city in the United States. And I just want to remind people that there is a benefit for her this Wednesday at the American Legion from 4 to 7, and I'd love everybody to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Reynolds. Commissioner Ryan?
I certainly support that effort. Sitting in this chair for over 3 hours just makes me want to go home, so I'm going to keep it really brief. But I do want to say that I think the 2 public hearings were very good today. I think it got some good discussion going. It pointed some things out to us. We got to learn some things. Hopefully some people got to learn some things about how cities' government works as well. But, I think they were very positive, and I particularly, the discussion around the smart zone. And I think the more we can do to get people to understand what's happening there and why we're making the decisions we are would be very beneficial, and I'm sure we're going to do that. So enough said for tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Coyne.
Thank you. I'd like, excuse me, I'd like to thank the city clerk for getting the sound system fixed. Thank you. Can you hear me? All right, good. I kind of like Mr. Feather's idea last fall about planting trees along the bike path, and I'm disappointed that didn't work. But I hope that if you are successful with the orchard here, that we could do that in other places as well, and because it's really a good idea. And maybe someday we'll get some fruit trees and bushes along bike paths. I'm not giving up on that. I'd like to let my fellow commissioners know that Wednesday we're going to have hopefully a wrap-up meeting with Lundin. We have one more issue to deal with, and it's looking good, and hopefully then we will have an agreement that we can have a work session and get somewhere with it. Commissioner Cambenzi and Commissioner Stonehouse and I have really worked hard on this for a long time, and so hopefully we have a solution here for you quickly. One other thing is I'd like to thank all the citizens who stepped up and volunteered to run for the City Commission, for the Board of Light and Power, and County Commission. It's very helpful, and appreciate their doing so. And one final thing is, as my memory serves, we did vote 6-1 to ask the attorney and Chief Angeli to deal with the community rowing group. And is that my question is that ongoing, and are you still having communications with them to?
It is ongoing, and we're continuing to work in that direction.
What?
I'm sorry. It is ongoing, and we're continuing to work with the UPCRC to try to take care of it.
Thanks. Nothing further.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Cambenzi.
I guess first of all, I'll congratulate the Marquette Sentinels girls hockey team for being the state champs and the U.S. national runner-ups. That's pretty awesome. I always wanted to play hockey when I was younger, watching my brother, but back in the day, I had to play with the guys, and that just, I wasn't going to do that. So I think it's pretty cool that we now have a lot of girls hockey teams, and they're doing so well. The next thing I just want to bring up briefly is that the city manager, Mayor Nemi, and myself attended a girls and boys state reception and question and answer, I guess, about what it's all about. We got to meet the candidates who went last year. We got to meet the candidates going this year. And I thought it was pretty cool. We got to see a pretty cool picture of Bill from back in the day when he when he was a boys state rep. There are 4 boys going. There are 4 girls going. They give scholarships to each of them. This year there are 4 additional girls that want to go, and they do not have money to send them. So if those girls wanted to go, they would actually have to pay to go. And I've stepped up to donate some money, and I think Mayor Nemi might be on board. But certainly if any of my fellow commissioners are, I think the best thing for me that night was to see the excitement in our young people to hopefully be in our seats someday. So very inspiring. I do have some information if you want to check it out, and certainly urge the community to contact Patty Stevens through the American Legion if you're interested in helping. Just wanted to thank Dave Blue. You are the guy that really kind of sews everything together for us, and it's an incredible task. I don't know if I would want to do it, but just know that we appreciate you very much. The Orchard Project, I too would like to see him on the bike path. Maybe Mike and I can conspire to help that, but I'm looking forward to the presentation, seeing what you have and helping move this forward. I think it's a great project. Another thing that will make our community unique. For Mr. Hosworth, all the residents that were a little upset about the rezoning and the transfer station, you are always welcome, and your voice will be the most influential at the site plan review, and I urge you to attend that meeting and raise your concerns, whether it's ours, dust, smell, all of that, because that's how it's going to get formulated, and that's really how that facility in your neighborhood will operate. Lastly, just with the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club, I will agree it's in no way personal. The people that are opposed to it are strictly opposed to the site. It has nothing to do with the group. I think they're a fabulous group. But if you look at the documents throughout the years, it took us a long time to even get to a compromise on preservation. And I still think that's a strong thread in our community. And so whether or not it goes through, I am asking my fellow commissioners to consider stepping back and having some public forums on it. I think it would benefit both sides. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambezi. Commissioner Campana.
I too would also like to congratulate the U16 girls hockey team. It's my daughter played travel hockey, so I kind of have an idea what it's all about, and it's more than just a team effort and a team victory. It's a community effort. It takes, parents, coaches, people in the community donating money. It's a total contribution. So it was a big thing that they did to get as far as they did. Commissioner Don Ryan was front page of the article in the Mining Journal article on Saturday. He was a featured speaker at the West Marquette County Partners for Education as part of Excellence in Education. So it's a very good thing, Don. And tonight when we were talking, it seemed like when we had issues come up about people not being notified of the different meetings, and as long as I've been here, it seems like we have at least 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings before it even comes before the commission. There's planning commissions, there's work sessions, so, but people don't seem to know that. I mean, they're not going to go to the city website and look for it. It's just, there should be a better way perhaps to let them know what's going on that's going to affect them. They might not even read the paper, but somehow they got to figure this out. And maybe we need to get the message out before it comes to the commission. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Campana. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
A couple of quick things if I can. Certainly very excited about Northern's new president. Really do look forward to the opportunity to sit down and work with them to benefit both the city and the university. If you're following the paper and the story of the black stores in Marquette Township and Brighting Township and the appeal they lost at the tax tribunal, this is really effects that can roll right across the state. For example, what the gist of the problem being that Lowe's filed a tax appeal claiming that they were being taxed too much, and the valuation of the store, the assessment of the store was based on the present use of the store. Lowe's maintained that it should be actually taxed on the basis of an empty store. Kind of a strange argument, but that prevailed at the tax tribunal. That prevailed also at the appeal to the tax tribunal. Whether the townships choose to take it to the Michigan Supreme Court or whether the court chooses to accept it, I do think that it would be very appropriate for the city to throw some money on the pot to help with the legal fees, because I think certainly we would be implicated in that whole scenario should it actually come to pass. And I think severe consideration should be given by this body to doing that, to assisting with the cost on it. Certainly that's an item that needs to come in front of the commission as a pure agenda item if we choose to do that or not. Very excited about all the folks that stepped forward tonight with their comments, many of them spot on, really focused, good stuff to hear. I wish we'd heard it earlier, certainly, and I wish we would get the same type of response when we do a work session or budget sessions. Please, that's when really you have an opportunity to drill into what the city is doing and how we're going to do it. So again, I encourage folks to step out, give us your thoughts, give us your ideas, and that would be most helpful. Finally, excited about the community orchard. I think that's a great idea, and I will tell you that I think doing the first one is going to be the most difficult. And once the first one is done, the others will come along very nicely and very easily. So forbear. It's a tough one, but the rest I think will be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Just have a few brief items.
Start with Community Orchard. I certainly support it. I support it along the bike path. Whether or not we can do that remains to be seen, but I'm sure that we can arrive at a site that will be certainly beneficial for your group, and we thank you for coming forward and providing us this project. I support it, and I'm sure the Commission does. The girls hockey, we not only have a good team, we have the premier team in the state of Michigan. They're the state champs and runners-up nationally, so I think that's great. Girls state, I echo Commissioner Cambenzi's plea. The 4 alternates, the Marquette Legion has the seats available to send people to Girls State if the funding can be raised to send them. It costs about $305 per seat. That's, I think, in the neighborhood of $225 for the actual attendance at Girls State and $105 for the participant share of transportation. I'm going to donate. Commissioner Cambenzi is going to donate. If all my other fellow commissioners will donate, perhaps we can at least fund one participant to Girls State. So I would encourage you to do that as you may be able and willing. The last item in the dark stores, I agree with Commissioner Stonehouse. I think as good neighbors and perhaps for our own self-preservation, we ought to look at contributing to the fight, and perhaps the city manager and city attorney could look into the issue and see what possibly could be done by the city of Marquette on behalf of that effort. City manager, anything?
Thank you, Your Honor. Only, again, very sensitive, and thank the Commission for their views and for the feedback from the community. We know that we always need to be better in getting the word out, and we've tried a lot of different ways to do that, but ultimately it comes down, if all else fails, to having our open door policy. Anybody can walk in at any time and ask questions of myself, of staff, of the city attorney. We're responsive. We might not be able to answer the question in that moment. We might need a little bit of time, but any contact that comes from the community, the first thing that happens is it goes to the city commission so that they're aware there's been outreach, and then we assign it a 24-hour response requirement. So we might not always be able to provide a complete answer. We might not always provide the answer you're looking for, but we always provide some kind of an answer with a status update within 24 hours of the first time that that's brought in. So whether it's telephone calls, emails, visits, whatever that might be, we share that and we follow up on it. So if you can't come to the meetings, if you can't read the newspapers, if you can't go to the website, if you can't watch it on Channel 21, if you can't listen to the radio, if you can't do anything else, and you have a question about what's going on in the city, you can come see us any day. You can come to the community office hours, share your views. That gets reported and that gets acted on. And so we have a lot of communication, it sounds like, from our public meetings this evening. We'll proceed as the direction from the Commission for the personal outreach to make sure everybody's informed and to try to get a series of meetings together to discuss the LDFA. We'll tie that together, I think, through our strategic planning meetings that are upcoming here within the next couple of weeks, and give folks an awful lot of opportunities, I think, to learn more about the priorities of the Commission and what that will look like moving forward over the next couple of years.
Thank you, City Manager. One item I forgot, I wanted to express my appreciation to Supervisor Limita and Supervisor Walker for coming in to feed the girls hockey team with us. It is a community team, it's not a City of Marquette team, and I think that's important for the wider community to understand. And I thank my fellow commissioners for a good evening. We went over time, but I think it's all time well spent, so we are adjourned.